I'd like to call this January 17th session of the Holyoke City Council to order. The clerk will call the roll and record those members present.
Bartley.
Here.
Bresnahan. Graney. Jordan.
Here.
Leahy.
Present.
LeBron Martinez. Lisi. Lopez.
Here.
McGee. McGivern.
Here.
Roman. Sullivan.
Here.
Tommen.
Here.
Bacon. Here. Valentin.
Here.
All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America.
And the city of Holyoke and the great city council. Distinguished colleagues, we have two items that are currently laid on the table, items marked 1 and 2. Is there any pleasure as it relates to these two items? I believe the Water Commission item is we're still ready to do interviews shortly, if not tomorrow night. So that can stay. And I would also suggest, I was recently informed that the tax collector appointment is actually for this year. That was not originally picked up on the first go around. So I would recommend we just do tax collector and Water Commissioner for our next meeting. Okay?
Sounds good. Thank you.
And then are these minutes ready to go as relates to item 2? Okay. So a motion related to item 2 would be in order.
Make a motion to accept the minutes as read.
Okay, let's just take it off the table first.
Move to take off the table.
Motion to remove item number 2 from the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 2 is from Brenna Murphy McGee. She's the clerk and also from Ryan Allen, our administrative assistant. They have provided to us the December 20th minutes of our Holyoke City Council meeting. As you'll recall, these were tabled at the last meeting because they were put in late into the packets. So now everyone should have hopefully had an opportunity to review them and if there's any alterations.
Motion to receive and adopt.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to receive and adopt. Any thoughts, commentary? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Next up is public comment. Public comment, we had one concerned citizen sign up for public comment for today, and I believe I'm reading this is either Alan or Stan. Hopefully I got Alan. Good, okay. Alan Weiner. Alan hails from 384 High Street. Alan, kindly come up to the microphone, make sure it's clicked on, and we appreciate your thoughts. Up to 2 minutes, sir.
Hi, my name is Alan Weiner, and I am a physician and medical director of the Clean Slate program in Holyoke. And I'm speaking on behalf of Clean Slate and in support of medication-assisted treatment for opiate addiction. And this is in response to one of the issues tonight, specifically number 10F on the agenda. So I want to put my perspective on addiction. And that being addiction is a chronic medical illness that deserves treatment. It's a chronic relapsing brain disorder, and medication-assisted treatment is the evidence-based treatment for opiate use disorder. For diabetics, there's medication. Hypertension, we have medication. And the medication, there's medication therapy for opiate addiction that really is the backbone of treatment. And if patients are properly medicated and are not having cravings, they can be fully present for the behavioral health programming that's necessary to support recovery. And I want to just clarify from my medical perspective that Suboxone is not about substituting one opiate for another. It has unique properties that make it particularly integral to treatment. And given the opiate epidemic in this community as well as others in Western Massachusetts, to restrict access is potentially very harmful. And I want to offer that I've witnessed so many of my patients reclaim their lives with the help of medication-assisted treatment. I've seen many success stories. Opiate use disorder, I feel, is a horrible disease, and my patients do not deserve our judgment nor stigma. They deserve our respect and compassion and appropriate access to medical treatment. So I'm aware of the planning board's response to the proposed ordinance, zoning ordinance, and I know that they had a hearing and heard from other health experts, and I want to support their finding that that no further regulation of medication-assisted treatment facilities is necessary or desirable.
Thank you, Dr. Weiner. We appreciate your thoughts. I will say I believe that's going back to committee actually later. We'll see anyway. So that concludes public comment. That was all the people that signed up for this evening. We now go to communications, which brings us to item number 3.
If we can suspend the necessary rules and take up item 10F out of order.
Sure.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to suspend the necessary rules to take up item number 10F at this time. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. I will read it. The Committee on Ordinance, to whom was referred an order that the City Council adopt a special permit and/or application for any methadone clinic coming to the city, have considered the same, recommend that the order be adopted as amended, and then here's the thing, we don't have any signatures on the committee jacket, we don't have a committee report at this time, 3 members or more having not signed the committee jacket, the item will stay in committee, okay? And I believe the basis for that is there's some additional review that we had received from the law department, and the committee would like to review all of that. So no committee report, and therefore that 10F remains in the ordinance committee. Okay? Thank you.
And then under discussion, if I may.
Sure.
Does the chair for members of the public that are interested in that issue have a sense of when we might be meeting on that particular issue next?
Councilor Vacan.
I plan to put it on the next meeting agenda, January 24th.
Thank you.
All right, so that's next week. Okay. All right, great. And that now again brings us back to item 3. Thank you, sir. Item number 3 is a communication from the city clerk, Brenna Murphy McGee. These are the minutes of our January 3rd, 2017 meeting.
Motion to lay on the table so that we could await for the written commentary.
Okay, no written commentary from our assistant on that one?
Should be in there. I should have listened.
Did this go out in the packets? Did it go in the packets, do you know?
I got it.
You got those? Let me take a look at my packet. Let's see if I got mine in there.
Has anybody read them? Most of us got the agenda very late.
Came Thursday, I thought.
They are in the packets.
Yeah.
I see it there. I read mine. I don't know about you.
I read them when I
Any
get them.
confessions?
I
Okay.
didn't have mine until today.
I didn't have mine till today.
Oh, you didn't get your, in the actual mail, you didn't get it till today? Oh, okay. I
get
mean,
the
there's no
agenda.
harm in us waiting 2 weeks. I mean, it's not the end of the world if we table this. If you would like more time, that's fine. I don't think anybody would object to that. You're totally your call, whatever you feel better.
The motion's on the table. I don't know
Okay.
if there's a second.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to table. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item 3 tabled. Item number 4. Item number 4 comes to us from Bellamy Schmidt, our acting city auditor. This is a letter regarding the monthly budget reports for the general fund and sewer fund as of October 31st, 2016.
Motion to send to finance.
Okay, motion's been
Second.
made and seconded to receive and send a copy to the Finance Committee. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Suspend the necessary rules, take up 5 through 9 as a package.
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to take up items 5 through 9 as a package. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 5 is from the Holyoke Board of Health minutes of November 3rd, 2016. Item number 6 is the Board of Public Works minutes of December 5th. Item number 7 is the Sewer Commission minutes of December 5th, 2016. Item number 8 is from the Stormwater Authority minutes of December 5th, 2016. And item number 9 is from the Holyoke Historical Commission. It's the minutes of October 17th, November 3rd, November 14th, and December 12th, 2016.
Be received.
Motion's been made
Second.
and seconded that these be received. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. President's report, always my favorite part of the meeting. Thank you. I do actually have a number of items I'd like to go over with tonight. Two different topics, but 3 bullet points. One is related to the city auditor position. Through the formal process, we've received no additional applications. I believe there were 2 that were deemed by the personnel director as unqualified, so didn't meet the criteria. And so he asked, what would we like to do for next steps? I suggested that we consider a temp agency, either like account temps or one of those, to work on, perhaps consider bringing in a position there. I thought it was also necessary that we continue to certainly repost and continue to advertise for the position. Also looking at other avenues to advertise other than the ones that have been picked already. I know Councilor Leahy, I believe, actually put it up on Facebook. I haven't been that creative. And he actually had some people that were interested, correct?
3 people. I talked, Bob Judge sent me an email today. One out of those 3 is the most impressive resume he's seen since the last person.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Yep.
So hopefully, through this process of reposting, maybe we're going to come up with a candidate. So in the meantime, if we're looking for perhaps a long-term solution, we could also consider using a temporary position appointment as well. That's something also we could consider. So there are agencies that handle that type of thing as well. So I'll have to hopefully maybe get with Mr. Schmidt and maybe with personnel to see, how urgent is it. It seems like Bellamy's patience hasn't yet worn out on us. So we'll continue with that. Yeah.
Just on that matter, I don't disagree with the temporary, but the way we vote is a permanent position, and I don't think we have any other option at this moment.
No. It's not an issue of who we would appoint, but as it relates to the mayor, he would make an acting appointment, and if, it seems that the impression I get is Bellamy is kind of staying here, faithful soldier, until we can come up with somebody, but that's obviously gone much longer than we ever anticipated. So, if we want to consider, there are other options to come up with a temporary. That's, yeah. Second point is relating to the fire that took place down on Northeast Street. I did want to point out, and I have been asked some questions just from different constituents and whatnot on this, is relative to the brownout funds. Again, in the budget process, I just want to be clear of the council's role when it comes to budget cuts, that we cannot add to the budget, we can only cut from the budget. So, and to this, it relates to the overtime line, the council made no cuts in the fire department overtime line. So I just want to be clear about that point. There's been some talk about, there's a lot of use of the word we, like, we got together and decided this was the number. But, we have a process, and the process is the number is whatever the mayor comes in at. We can deduct from that number, but we cannot add to that number. So just so we're all clear about that. I did also want to comment briefly about sort of the irony of the last couple of weeks. Obviously, I think the council needs to continue to serve its role, and I believe we have a committee hearing to this fact, to continue to gather information, not about pointing blame, certainly, but about finding out what occurred, what could be done better, what exactly happened as it relates to our fire service that particular morning. And so as we have a committee meeting related to the Northeast Street fire, we continue to get information from the fire chief, from the mayor, from all parties involved as to who arrived at what time, with what equipment, under what conditions, and we get to the bottom of that. What I don't want to see happen, and I know the mayor feels, obviously he's taking a lot of fingers being pointed at him related to that, and he feels that, you know, much of this is politics. What I don't want to see happen is the way he handled it a couple of years ago as it related to the Essex House. If you'll recall on that matter, at the time, when a portion of the building came down, it was, this happened because the city council delayed the funding for the demolition of this building. I mean, we went immediately from the mayor's lips to God's ears. We went right under the bus, okay? And yet, now I think it's kind of ironic that now he is saying, well, hold on a minute, you know, why is everybody pointing a finger at me? This is politics, and, you know, we need to move forward and get to, you know, this, that, and another thing. And the irony of all of that is not lost on me, because when in March of, I want to say 2010, when himself, the mayor, and the treasurer decided to take the Essex House, ownership of it through tax title, that building sat there for months and months and months and months until on January 7th, I want to say 2011, the treasurer came into this body.
2012, yeah.
2012, thank you. Okay, so this would have been March of 11, so now we're into January 2012. And that night, we got to have $1.3 million, and we're going to take this building down right away, or it could fall down at any time. So that day, no questions asked, even though the treasurer said it was going to cost $900,000, we appropriated $1.3 million, no questions asked, at a meeting in this council, same day, same, unheard of that we just a bond for that kind of money. Boom, so we approved it. Then nothing ever happens. Months and months and months and months and months go by again. Another half a year goes by. After they said we're going to take it down any day, another 6 months goes by, no building down. Then they come in and says, I know it was only going to be 900, and I know you gave us 1.3, but now we need another 200 on top of that. So we had a committee meeting to discuss it. And of course, we're on summer recess at this point. So it comes back out in September, and the council approves it. Now, everybody, at least many people, felt this was not the way it should be handled, certainly myself included, but the majority of the council did vote for the additional funds. And again, it was going to be taken down right away. And it goes 3 more months before it's ultimately taken down. But in the meantime, 3 months after the council voted, the side starts to come down. And what's the mayor's first reaction? Because the council delayed it is the reason this building partially came down. Now, there's a number of fire officials that are saying this fire would, you know, these people, such and such, would not have happened but for the actions of the mayor and the decision on the brownouts. Well, we're going to find out whether that's true or not. I'm not opining one way or the other on the veracity of those statements. But I'm just saying the mayor's reaction since this is very interesting to me, when that was a 180 opposite in the middle of a crisis in this community on that issue, where it was city council first to blame, and then now he wants the benefit of the doubt. And that was extremely hurtful. I mean, I've seen some disingenuous statements in this room in my quarter century here, but that was like the mother of all disingenuous statements. And so as far as counselors go, and we're watching this, I just want it to be let known, I'm not going to come out here and start saying it's the mayor and it's this one and we're going to have this big blame game. We're going to get down to the bottom of a truth of the whole thing. We're going to review the facts, and then at the end of it, the city council can be honest with what we've come up with for the people of Holyoke. We're going to get all the information from fire officials and from everybody involved that we can possibly get, and we're going to have a thorough review. And hopefully with the help of everybody involved, we can come up with some sort of timeline and conclusion, and at the end of it, maybe it'll be inconclusive. We won't know what exactly is the case. But suffice it to say, we're not going to sit here and throw the mayor under the bus like we were thrown under the bus. a couple of years ago, because that's not the way we operate. So anyways, there's good ways of doing things and bad ways, and I think the council at the end of it will get to a good spot, hopefully. And not lost in all of this is the tragedy of obviously these people, these three folks losing their life and many others injured. So that's where we're going forward on this. Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. For the chair of the committee who's hearing that order, is there a date set for that meeting?
I believe there's a meeting coming up in 2 days.
Public safety.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not here, but it's Thursday.
Thursday at 6:30.
Thank you.
So I certainly would encourage folks to come down, and that'll be televised for those that cannot. All right. So anyways, just wanted to address those two important issues. And without further ado, we go to reports of committees. Ordinance Committee. Yes, Councilor Roman.
Quickly, I just
by the way, I'd like to say the reason, again, want to appreciate Councilors LeBron Martinez and Councilor Roman. Thank you for representing your constituents, and thank you for another tragedy down at Maine and Hamilton. Can you give us a quick debrief on that?
Yes, Mr. President, that's what I'm here, and I thank my colleagues. I thank Councilwoman LeBron Martinez, School Committee Woman Lefebvre was there as well. Got the call, text from the police chief informing me that there is a fire on Main Street, right next to La Pecaderia. All the tenants are out of the building. We just gave them an update. The Red Cross is there. Capri Pizza donated pizza. We have Dunkin' Donuts on Main Street donated. All the residents are out. It looks like they're going to be able to go back into their units. They're displaced for this evening. The Red Cross is there collecting all the information. The South Holyoke Neighborhood Association is there. They have blankets and heaters, and unfortunately the heat at El Mercado is out at the moment, but they're getting through that. But I'm very thankful to the mayor's office. Providence Ministries was there on the scenes within minutes. The fire department and the police department especially. They've done a fantastic job. All the residents in one area, and again, the residents came together in a large way, so I thank my colleague, and that's why we were late. I apologize. It was just a really good community effort. And also the other day on Prue Avenue, there was also another fire in Ward 2. And again, same concept, the fire department, I requested that fire report to bring that to committee on Thursday. Fire department, an amazing job with that. Both residents are alive and well. You know, there was burn and smoke insulation, but 2 fires in Ward 2 this week, as well as the deadly fire on the 1st. So I thank and applaud the fire department wholeheartedly, and I thank them, especially for these victims this evening.
Great, thank you for that update. Councilor LeBron, does that cover it?
I just wanted to say that it's 15 families, 15 families altogether, 29. They are going to be displaced for the night, but they will be hopefully back sometime this week.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Roman?
Yes, sorry, Mr. President. I just wanted to also, again, tonight, originally, before I was representing, we heard this news. I actually wanted to thank this body for some great news that we received in the Latino Puerto Rican community today. This body took a vote a couple months ago. I remember we had an amazing conversation and resolution that was signed on by everyone. Today, the notice was given that President Obama has released Oscar Lopez Rivera. Oh, There's a huge celebration at Sarsarenga this evening. All of you are invited after, if we get out of here in a reasonable time. But the Latino Puerto Rican community is grateful and thankful to this body for unanimously standing with them. It was announced today that his sentence will be commuted. He'll be released May 17th. And I've spoken with the Puerto Rican Cultural Center in Chicago, his family. He will be coming to Holyoke, making it number 4 on his list. So we'll invite you all to meet him. But thank you all so much. I appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Excellent.
Mr. President.
Yes, Councilor McGivern.
I think it goes without saying, when the Holyoke City Council speaks, the world listens.
Absolutely. Thank you, President Obama. We know you are listening. All right. That's, like I said, last meeting we talked about the power of no. This meeting we have the power of yes, right, on this resolution. So very good. And that now brings us to Ordinance Committee Report 10A. To wit, is the Committee on Ordinance, to whom was referred an order that the City Council create an ordinance resident-only parking on McIntosh Terrace that would allow parking on street on the north side of the street from 9 to 7, only for cars that are registered with the city and that display the necessary decal. Further, the City Council establish relevant signage. Have considered the same. Recommend that the order be adopted as amended. Councilors Vacan, Lisi, Jordan, Bartley, and Lopez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll just make the motion to pass the first reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to pass the first reading. Under discussion, Counselor Bacon.
And I would like to give the mic to Counselor Bartley, who made this order.
Counselor Bartley, any thoughts?
Yeah, so I'd like to make a brief one amendment, Mr. President. So
Okay.
I just want to make the effective date March 1st.
Second.
So it's a motion.
Okay. So, if I may, just so we're all crystal clear on this, Section 3 states, as currently written, this ordinance shall take effect on the date of passage. Amendment from Councilor Bartley, which has been seconded, is to amend that to say, this ordinance shall take effect on March 1st, 2017.
That's right, Mr. President.
Okay. Under discussion of the amendment and the overall order, Councilor Bartley.
Thank you. So we're going to have another order that the chairwoman is going to take up on Tuesday relative to that whole section on parking, specifically which department, because right now we have, I think at last count, we have 3 different departments that are issuing parking permits. So what I'd like to do is get that squared up in ordinance, Mr. President, before we pass yet another parking permit ordinance. I just want to have it streamlined, if you will. So that's the intent of this motion.
Wonderful. And so there's 2 ordinance amendments that we're making, one to section 86-321 and the other to 86-106 under the Bartley amendment. Both will be in section 3 respectively of both of those changes. The date will be amended to say from date of passage to March 1st, 2017. That's the amendment now currently before us. Any discussion of the amendment? Hearing none. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. We're now still at first reading. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion's been made and seconded to pass the second reading. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Motion that the passage be ordained.
Motion is made and seconded that the passage be ordained. There is no further discussion. When the clerk calls the roll, a yes vote is in favor of the ordinance change as amended. A no vote is to deny.
Tomlin,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Valentin,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Jourdain,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
McGee, McGivern,
Yes.
Roman,
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes.
Unanimous.
By your vote, you have approved the ordinance change.
Mr. President, can we take 10B through E as a package, please?
Sure. Motion's been made and seconded to take 10B through 10E as a package. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. I will read all of these. These are all, I'm going to do somewhat abbreviated, and then I'm not going to say Committee on Ordinance for every single one of these. I'll just go through these. 10B, the Committee on Ordinance, to whom was referred an order that a handicap sign be placed in front of 30 Portland Street for Jose Duque, recommend that that be adopted. 10C, referred an order that the handicap sign be placed in front of 552 South Summer Street, Apartment 3 Right, for Brenda Lorenzi, recommend that be adopted. 10D, that a handicap sign be placed in front of 189 Beach for Abigail Savine. Recommend that be adopted. 10E, referred an order that a handicap sign be placed in front of 11 Center Street for Josephine Rivera. Recommend that be adopted. Those are the ordinance amendments.
So motion to pass the first reading.
Motion's been made and seconded to pass the first reading on items 10B through 10E. Under discussion, Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. These are fairly straightforward. We were just waiting for the Disabilities Commission to be able to go out and do their field review and give us their recommendation. So they're now before us to approve.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Motion to pass the second reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to pass the second reading. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Motion that the passage be ordained.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded that the passage be ordained. There is no further discussion. The clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of adopting the ordinance change on these 5 items. A no vote is to deny all 5.
Tomlin,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Valentin,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Jourdain,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
McGee, McGivern,
Yes.
Roman,
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes.
Unanimous.
By your vote, you've approved, and I should say it's those 4 ordinance changes, 10B through 10E. We've already taken care of 10F, and now this brings us to 10G. This will be a quick one. 10G, the Committee on Ordinance, to whom was referred an order that the City Council consider revising the ordinances relative to the funds provided to the Mayor's office in lieu of providing a vehicle. Have considered the same, recommend that the order be adopted as amended. There are no signatures on the committee report. The committee determined there was further language changes needed from the final revision that came from the Law Department. So this, because there is no committee jacket, will remain in ordinance. Okay? So that takes care of 10G. 10H. Thank you, sir. 10H. The Committee on Ordinance, to whom was referred an order that the mayor come before a committee of the council to discuss his plan to move municipal offices. He should discuss this plan with us prior to implementing it. Recommend that the order be adopted as amended. And this comes to us from Councilors Vacan, Lisi, Jordan, Bartley, and Lopez.
Motion to pass the first reading.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to pass the first reading. Under discussion, Councilor Vacan.
So we had a fair amount of discussion on this in committee. As we may all recall, we had turned over really all management except for basically this room in the office to the mayor. Since then, there have been some questions as to whether we took everything and put it too much in one basket. So based on discussion in committee, we have before you an amendment that the DPW shall have general charge of the building per se. The city council, after consultation with the mayor, shall prepare and arrange said rooms for their appropriate purposes. I'm doing an abbreviated reading. And that the mayor and or his or her staff shall be responsible for the general care of the building. Also, we further added that a 24-hour locked bulletin board in front of the City Hall be made available in order to meet the open meeting law for notices. And that the mayor, after consultation by City Council vote, shall prepare and arrange rooms for their appropriate purpose.
Okay. Any discussion? Councilor McGivern.
Mr. President, I was present, as you know, at the Ordinance Committee meeting and in agreement with the proposed changes for the most part. But is this in legal form? Because I have not received a copy. Oh, as our rules state, may I get a copy prior to the meeting?
So you're saying this wasn't in the packets also?
The pack that I got just arrived today. So with the agenda for all the other meetings that are happening this week as well as tonight's agenda.
I see. Okay.
I know I live out in the boonies, but.
Okay.
We tell Council
you should have a copy of it in your packet. I see your manila envelope there. Albeit you got it late, it should be in there.
I don't have it.
I must have the special packet.
If it's read as talked about in ordinance, Mr. President, I'll go along with the report.
And they took almost all of your suggestions, if not all of your suggestions.
I just like seeing it in writing, you know?
Okay. You want me to just read? I mean, it's only 2 paragraphs. You want me to read it? Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, sure. Just so we're all crystal clear.
I was reading from my notes, so.
Section 2-566, care and charge of City Hall building. The Department of Public Works shall have general charge of the City Hall building in its rooms and grounds, and shall ensure access to the building by any elected official is not impeded. The mayor, with consultation and approval of the City Council, shall prepare and arrange said rooms for their appropriate purposes. The president of the City Council or the president's designee shall be in charge of the scheduling of the use of the City Council chambers and use of the offices used for conducting of City Council business. The mayor or his or her staff shall be responsible for the general care and maintenance of the building, its rooms and grounds, and shall keep the same clean, warm, properly lit, and in good order and condition. The mayor shall provide a locked bulletin board outside of the City Hall building of adequate size to meet all requirements of the open meeting law. Short and sweet.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Not a problem. Yes. City Council Youth Representative.
What do you mean by adequate size?
that it's going to be big enough so that all the agendas and the different meeting notices will be able to fit into the lockbox, because we've had a little bit of challenge with open meeting law. For example, one of the provisions of the open meeting law requires 24/7 access to the agendas of the meeting. And if we ever have a computer glitch, then we lose our 24/7 access. So how we're in compliance is through the computer. The problem is right now the only bulletin boards we have are in front of the clerk's office, which we do post. Problem is this building is locked at 4:30. So therefore it doesn't meet the 24/7 requirement. So what we've been trying to do for some time is have locked bulletin boards out in front of City Hall so that theoretically a citizen could come up and read what's going to go on at the meetings if the computer went down. And this way that prevents us from having to needlessly cancel meetings if the computer goes down, because we now don't meet the 48-hour notice rules and all of that.
Yeah, but we should make the dimensions known, because adequate size could be interpreted to person to person, and my adequate size could be different from your adequate size.
True. That's a good point. How about this? My suggestion is, since we don't know how many it's going to take, let's see what they put up, and if it's not big enough, you and I can have a conversation with the mayor on it. How's that sound?
That sounds good.
All right, then that's what we're going to do. All right. So great question. Okay. So we're at first reading, counselors. And is there any other discussion at first reading? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Motion to pass the second reading.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to pass the second reading. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Motion that the passage be ordained.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded that the passage be ordained. There is no further discussion. The clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of the ordinance change, and no vote is to deny it.
Tommen,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Valentin,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Bresnahan,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
McGee, McGivern,
Yes.
Roman,
Yes.
Sullivan. Unanimous.
By your unanimous vote, you have approved that ordinance change. 10I, the Committee on Ordinance, to whom was referred an order that the engineer look at a no turn on red sign being placed at Cherry Street to Northampton Street, recommend that that order's been complied with. Give me 14A.
Mr.
Thank you. Councilor Lopez?
Can we go back to the last item? I just want to see if we can put a time frame to get that sign up and running. If we can do that, please.
Well, this says that it's as soon as this ordinance shall take effect upon passage. So this ordinance requires him to do it as soon as this becomes law, once he signs it.
All right, we will see.
Or we override it if he doesn't sign it, right?
All right.
I would assume he's going to sign it.
Thank you.
Yeah. If it's not up, we'll have a conversation, right?
So,
Sure.
By me.
So motion to receive and adopt the committee report.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to receive and adopt the committee report, which is that this order has been complied with, and that was signed off by Councilors Bacon, Lisi, Jordan, and Bartley. Councilor Bacon,
Thank
for a
you.
motion?
We,
I'm sorry, that adopt the committee report.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, you have the floor.
okay. Our engineer came in, actually, Mike McManus came in and let us know that it's really not warranted at that site and that it would create more problems than it would fix. And so the committee found the order to be complied with following engineer review.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 10J. 10J is an order that was sent to the Committee on Ordinance and to whom they were referred that order. Composition of the committee, statutory requirement. The first 5 members of the CPC are required by the statute. Each of the following boards must designate one of its voting members to serve on the CPC. And I believe this is related to the CPA. Conservation Commission, Planning Board, Housing Authority, Historic Commission, Board of Park and Rec, Composition of the committee at-large members, 1 citizen not currently holding elected or appointed office, nor currently municipal employees as appointed by the mayor. 3 citizens not currently holding elected or appointed office, nor currently municipal employees as appointed by the council. Term of office, 1, 2, or 3 years. We can discuss an ordinance, then the full council. Have considered the same, recommend this order be given leave to withdraw. Councilors Vacant, Lisi, Jordan, Bartley, and Lopez.
Motion to receive and adopt the committee report.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive and adopt the committee report. Under discussion, Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we had 2 orders referred to committee that were very, very similar. Minor differences between the 2. And since we had run into a great deal of confusion when we had 5 orders relative to procurement, the committee thought it best to choose 1 to work on and incorporate some of the ideas from one into the other. And so that is the only reason that the committee is making this recommendation. There is nothing wrong with one or the other orders, but they were both very similar.
Thank you. Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. And then also just wanted to add that we did actually borrow a lot of what Councilor Leahy put here and asked the legal department to put that into the draft that we're working on. Right. In particular, the idea of having citizens that don't currently hold any elected or appointed office and having some new and more broad-based grassroots representation on this body was very appealing to us.
Yep. Thank you. Any other thoughts?
So just
Councilor Valentin.
So just to clarify, this is the order from Councilor Leahy, and then the one from Councilor Roman is still in committee, correct?
Exactly.
All right, thank you.
The one, we took the parts of the Leahy item, which were very similar to the Councilor Roman one, and those were incorporated in as much as possible, and then we went to one product to work off of. So yes, to answer you in short, Councilor Roman's is now the new template.
Right, and if we had been able to complete the work, but there's a little more thought and consideration that needs to go into it. So it really was not really picking or choosing one order better than another. It was just simply so that we could be working around one set of language.
Right.
Thank
Councilor
you.
Leahy?
I'm all set.
Okay. All right. But we made a lot of progress the other night at the meeting, so there was pretty uniform consensus on what we should do. So. Okay, very good. So all in favor of adopting the committee report?
Aye.
So moved.
Mr. President, if I may, there was an item on the ordinance agenda that we did take up that is not on this agenda, and I would just like to pull it out of committee to act on it tonight.
Second.
Okay. I'm assuming that's where our faithful assistant went to retrieve that?
I'm not sure about that, but what it is the removal of a handicap sign that is no longer needed at 195 Suffolk Street. It was very straightforward.
And what about the one that was for Dwight Street that was approved? I didn't see that on the agenda.
That's mine.
Oh,
The one at Councilor Valentin's hair salon of choice.
That's your ward. I just go there for a haircut.
But we approved that. I don't know. Somehow that didn't make. That did not make the agenda.
was that to create the
handicap
space?
As I recall, that was adopted.
So.
But they may not have measurements.
Oh, maybe
I'm
we don't
not
have
sure
measurements?
about
In this
that.
case, the deletion is different.
But the removal should be.
But I feel comfortable pulling the removal out of committee because
Okay.
it was already acted on and it doesn't require any further engineering.
195, 197 Suffolk, Ryan.
Legal wants to weigh in and
Oh,
suspend
yes.
the rules to
Distinguished
hear
legal. Suspend the rules to allow Sarah Carroll to address us. All in favor?
Aye.
Also move Sarah.
Just to clarify, the removal of a handicap parking space does require an amendment to the ordinances. So we would need the measurements in legal form.
Okay. So that must be what the delay is. We passed it, but they don't have the measurements up.
It was a short agenda last week, so we can get the measurements.
Okay. So next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. That clarifies that. So this other one is probably, that other one's in the same limbo status.
That would be because it has, it's a creation of a space.
Okay.
So as the ward counselor, you need to go do the measurements.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Absolutely.
That was a good answer.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, so that solves that mystery. And now, items, there are no Finance Committee reports.
President,
Councilor McGee.
Sorry I was late. I was actually at my son's 4th birthday party
Oh,
tonight, so he's
give him
4
our-
today. It's
Miles, he's getting
Boy,
old on
getting
us.
Too big, too fast. But there are cupcakes in the back. That was the other announcement that I brought.
okay.
Miles bought them for you. But for finance, on the 23rd at 6:30, we'll have a finance meeting. Within that will be the school department, the options about moving the building.
Oh, okay.
So they have confirmed that they'll be here on the 23rd.
Excellent.
Just for everyone to know.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, so finance up on the 23rd. No reports for this particular meeting. We'll see those in the future. Public safety is meeting Thursday, so we don't have any committee reports for them, but I'm sure we'll be hearing more about that later. And then public service is meeting tomorrow night, the chairman's inform us, and the big item there is water commissioner. And so no reports for this particular meeting, which now moves us to the Development and Government Relations Committee reports, which takes us to item 14A.
We take 14A and B as a package.
Certainly. Motion to suspend the rules to take 14A and 14B as a package. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 14A, the Committee on Development and Government Relations, to whom was referred a petition of Brian Marcotte for outdoor sales lots for new and used motor vehicles and trucks and marine and recreational vehicles. 7.2.13 for 1000 Main Street and 1010 Main Street, parcel numbers 116-00-001, 116-00-012, 116-00013, 116-00014, and 116-00015 parcel IDs. Recommend that that be adopted by the committee. 14B is a report from the Committee on Development and Government Relations, to whom was referred a petition of Brian Marcotte for a new motor vehicle repair under 7.213A for 1000 Main Street and 1010 Main Street for the same parcel numbers I earlier described. Recommend that that also be adopted. It's signed off by Councilors Bartley, McGivern, Tallman, and Sullivan. Mr. Chairman.
A motion to receive, adopt the committee report, and grant the 2 special permits.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive and adopt the committee report and its recommendation and approve the 2 petitions. Under discussion, Councilor Bartley.
So we had a public hearing on January 9th, and before us came Brian Marcotte relative to his petitions. I'm going to summarize what he plans to do. The plan is to purchase the former Gary Rome car lot and move Marcotte Ford's entire business across the street. The reason they're doing that is because they're going to rehabilitate the current Marcotte Ford at 1025 Main Street. I believe they said it's going to be at least a 15-month process to go ahead and do that. Once the 1025 Main Street lot is rehabilitated, Marcotte will return its vehicles to the original location. At the new location, Marcotte will sell its products and do some commercial lease sales, as well as have a parts service department. One person spoke in favor. I'm going to have you guess who it was, Mr. President, since you weren't there.
Crystal ball says Mr. Marcotte.
Gary Rome.
Oh, Gary.
Okay, so
Gary. Brian would at least say something in favor.
Well, he was in favor, but one person from the public spoke in favor. Is Gary Rome.
Oh, Gary, of course.
So that was a shocker.
Grow Holyoke.
And then we had one abutter came to speak, and he said, in his words, neither against nor in favor, but he came to advise the committee that the applicant needs to adhere to the city ordinance. The abutter provided testimony saying that certain parts of the ordinance, which is, as you know, Mr. President, 7.2.13, had not been adhered to, but the abutter did not provide any independent verification of that. Subsequently, he provided some photos to me, but it really wasn't, it was really outside the public hearing process, and I couldn't really consider it. However, during the public hearing process, the applicants, the Marcottes, advised that it does currently adhere to city ordinances, but in any event would continue to work with the abutters to ensure that all ordinances, whether if there's a discrepancy, are complied with. So the committee felt comfortable with the applicant's presentation, its petitions, and unanimously voted to grant the 2 special permits. I did want to make one little side note, Mr. President, and since we're sort of on a roll giving proclamations for anniversaries, I thought this was an interesting historical fact. I can't believe Councilor McGivern didn't notice this beforehand, but it just so happens that both Marcotte Ford and Gary Rome started their businesses across the street from each other in the same year, which happened to be 1967, which happens to be the 50th anniversary. So I would hope one of the at-large councilors will file the appropriate proclamations. If not, then I'll do it. But they should be congratulated for that. So,
very good.
So with that, that's the tail of the tape. Thank you.
Very good. All right.
All right.
Were there any conditions, Mr. Chairman, on any of these petitions or anything? Okay, very good. Any thoughts, commentary, discussion? Councilor Roman.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I thank the chairman and the applicants. They are great citizens and stewards in Ward 2. They are part of the neighborhood association, and on several occasions, after hearing other complaints from the butters or neighbors, went above and beyond this summer, even paid for security at their car wash facilities. Just great citizens, and they've listened, and we even extended the neighborhood association to have them come to my next office hours to answer any of butters' questions, consistently going above and beyond, and I'm just grateful to support this as their ward counselor, but also as a resident and neighbor who really truly appreciates the work that they do.
Thank you. Councilor Bacon.
And I would just like to add that this is the nature of a business that we like to think of when we say grow Holyoke.
Right. Anybody else? Okay. Petition. So I believe we're only going to need one reading on this, but it will have to require a roll call vote. We'll do this collectively if there's no further discussion. Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of adopting both petitions as articulated at 14A and 14B on the agenda. A no vote is to deny both. A yes vote is to approve both. Clerk will call the roll.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentin?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Unanimous.
By your vote, you've approved both petitions for Mr. Marcotte et al., and we wish him the best of luck. All right. Another great Holyoke business. 14C. Committee on Development and Government Relations, to whom was referred a petition of Roland Madzunowicz Jr. for a motor vehicle repair garage under 7.213A located at 1584 Dwight Street. Have considered the same. Recommend that the application be approved. Councilors Bartley, McGivern, Tallman, Sullivan, and Roman.
Well, I'd make a motion to receive and adopt the committee report and to grant the special permit.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to receive and approve the committee report and to grant the petition. Under discussion, Councilor Bartley.
So we had the applicant come before us. The business is at it's a very strange address, but it's actually 63 Shawmut Ave and 1584 Dwight Street. But his business is really facing out towards Shawmut Ave, Mr. President, in Ward 6. So what the applicant wants to do is auto repair on, I think it's Audis, but I can be corrected on that. We put conditions on it that no cars be left out overnight, that the auto repair business be done during regular business hours, specifically Monday to Saturday, 8 to 5 p.m. Now, it is true that the gentleman applicant may want to do paperwork before 8 o'clock or after 5 o'clock, and the committee was confident that that wouldn't be any problem. But the actual auto repair business can be done between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday. And I emphasize that, Mr. President. We did have two neighbors appear. We had one, an existing business owner, the owner of American Rug, who, you know.
What was his opinion?
Well, this is a Wild West. Anything goes. Just, whatever they want, just do it. Which is great. But that's not it's not exactly the way it works. And then we had another a neighbor come, and he originally was opposed to this, but he conferred with the applicant outside the hearing room, and then he did speak on the mic, and he said, you know, Mr. Chairman, I am confident in this business owner, and subsequent to the conversation, he said, I feel that I want to support the applicant. So those were the only two that appeared. So as it turned out, both people in the public who appeared before us were supportive of the applicant. And I just want to note, it's a brand new business too. So so we're really excited about that. It's a kind of a unique business. The gentleman lives, I think, West Hampton, and he's going to come into Holyoke every day. He's very excited about the location, the fair rent, and his ability to market his service. Thank you.
Be a welding place.
Okay.
CG Welding, right there, Walgreens. Right behind Walgreens. It's fenced in.
And we have those conditions spelled out here?
Almost like that.
I'll repeat them again if you want to handwrite them in, Mr. President.
Okay, I just want to make sure we get all of those in here.
Placed by Holyoke Sporting Goods, but it isn't.
Go ahead.
The auto repair portion of the business will be Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Okay, just 1 moment. 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. only. Okay, number 2.
Cars not to be left out overnight. Oh, I'm sorry, and there's one, Councilor McGivern brought up a very good point, and it's in my notes, I just forgot to mention it. The committee was unclear about this, but we left it this way. The third condition is, well, it's not a condition. The applicant needs approval from the license board, but we also conditioned that he, prior to getting the special permit, receive any kind of necessary environmental permits. It wasn't clear to us in the letter we received from planning whether environmental permits were necessary, but Councilor McGivern raised the point, and I think it's a fair condition. So if environmental permits, such as I think it was an oil gas separator, are needed, then he would need that prior to. But what
did he say about the storage of the 55 steel gallon drum of waste oil? Where is that going to be stored?
Inside the building.
Inside the building.
Yeah, and he's picking. That's going to. We didn't make that we didn't make a condition of it. But he said that. So if you want to make it a condition, you can motion for that. But but that's. I'm reading the report on there.
Just that he's making various statements here. I was wondering if we should add those in as conditions. So for example, such as, I'm not going to have no exterior lighting or signage. Sounds like a good condition to me if he's saying that's what's going to happen to make it enforceable. It says right here, there'll be no exterior lighting or signage. The lot's already buffered on 3 sides by a fence, tree, and shrubs.
Well, how do you say no signage on your?
I don't know. That's what he's saying. He says there's no exterior lighting or signage.
Well, I mean, if somebody's running a business, Mr. President, I mean, I think you got to allow external signage.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's.
Well, then how about exterior lighting?
That the condition would be that he would comply with any recommendations from the building department, because that'd be the office that would oversee. I mean, I think the ordinances are in place to sort of monitor that, so he can't have anything. Does he go through site plan review? No. No. So who's gonna really go through that whole process with them, right? Oh, you're rolling? Oh.
Oh, okay.
Oh, he's right here.
All right. You want to suspend the rules to?
Suspend the rule, yes.
Yeah, sure.
Is that okay?
The rules will let the applicant.
All right, motion's been made and seconded to suspend the rules.
Mr. President, the only thing about that is it was a public hearing, so we closed the public hearing, so I don't know if we can necessarily take additional testimony.
Was it testimony or answering questions?
It's clarification.
Yeah. Just clarifying what is said here. Yeah.
Okay. Well, great.
Okay. All right.
Make the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. So Roland, welcome.
Thank you.
You've got some statements here made, like there's not going to be any exterior lighting or signage.
Yes. Some of that was I'm forgetting. I believe it was Jeff who I was going back and forth with the planning board.
Okay.
That was a statement back to him, and so he had questions on the original form I filled out. It didn't really have a provision I saw for the sign or the lighting, so he had asked me that in email, and I wasn't prepared to answer it, and that's where we came up with that. As of right now, the building does not have any exterior lighting, so I don't really have a plan for it.
Okay.
And there is an amendment in there for the sign. Because after I had spoken with Jeff, that was one of our first conversations.
What's your plan for a sign? Like how big?
There was so much math involved. I did fill out for the biggest square foot sign that I could fit on the front of the building, just to make sure. I figured if it was a little smaller, I'd be okay. So I did it by whatever the.
Right. So that'll be per ordinance code. But I'm more concerned about the exterior lighting. Are you going to leave any exterior lighting on overnight?
No, there isn't any on the building at all right now, and I really don't have.
So we could put a condition that said no exterior lighting, and you'd be okay with that?
I would think so. I've never done this before, so I couldn't say for sure whether I ever will.
Well, I think the concern there would be, if there's no lighting now and you were to add it,
right,
neighbors would perhaps take offense to, the light being shining on them and stuff.
Absolutely. And like we talked with one of the residents, he was saying someone that came here opposed to it, and we did work out all the stuff like that. And I told him how I expressed I was really interested to work with the neighbors around here to make sure this goes through. I don't want this to be a burden on them or me. I don't want to have to jump in the business and lock the door every day so nothing happens. But as far as the lighting goes, I don't have any plan for lighting now. If I do need one.
Well, you could come to us and ask.
Right. I'm not just going to put lighting up and just do it. It would be something I want to check with first to make sure that's correct. So.
Okay.
And as far as the DEP was concerned, I did everything that was on the original form I filled out to submit this. The only provision in there, as far as the waste oil was concerned, there is a part of it is in there from the DEP about storage and removal of being a small waste oil generator, which is I do have the proper permit for that.
Okay.
The question we had at the public hearing was if the building required an oil separator.
Okay.
Which is not in that existing building, and obviously I'm going in my direction. But when I read through all the DEP paperwork, you can store the 55-gallon drums inside without a containment unit, and as long as it's on an impervious surface like concrete, you don't have to have any kind of a collector for it if there is a spill or something like that.
How many of those would you be storing at any one time?
It would be per the permit, you can store up to 5.
That's a lot of oil.
That is a lot of oil, and I don't
270 gallons of oil.
I understand why the wording is like that, because it's way more than you would be allowed to transport. So the plan is to have one there to collect it. And the town I'm from in West Hampton, we actually have a transfer station that burns waste oil. So as a small oil generator, I'm allowed to transport one 55-gallon drum at a time.
So
legally.
So you're going to store one at a time?
Store one at a time, and then when it's full, it's going to be transported there, and then leave it with them, and then start another one to fill back up.
All right. So you wouldn't object if we put a condition that said one 55-gallon drum of oil?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Unless, as long as we're reasonable here.
I'm thinking safety
is
what we're thinking.
Yeah, as long as I'm allowed, if I have an overlap of a day or so, if I have one that's full and I just start another one, I can't run one right out of the building.
Then two.
So should we do, it's 2.
As opposed to 5.
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
So 5 is,
all right.
Yeah, 5 would be. And I don't know, I think we addressed everything else.
All right.
And the only other thing with the sign, I went with the largest, I did the maximum square footage per the square footage of the frontage of the building that I have. Figuring it wouldn't be a complete sign if I did like a partial sign, then I had business hours and I kind of had things up there.
No lights on the sign, right?
No lights in the sign.
Okay.
No.
All right.
No. And just so everybody's clear too, if I do have anything, it's not like you were saying the wild, wild west. I don't just assume I'm going to be able to put up lights and put up signage and do anything I want over there. I want to do like I did the proper channels to get in here. I want to continue to do that. So we already have a good rapport. I have been renting and using that for storage, so I do already know a lot of the neighbors, and we do have a good rapport, and we actually have a good working thing going on over there. So
great. We appreciate that.
Awesome. Thanks for letting me do that.
Thank you. All right. So a friendly suggestion would be that we do one for no exterior lighting, and that we do one for not more than 2 55-gallon oil drums.
So moved on amendment to the add the special conditions that up to 2 55-gallon tanks and no exterior lighting.
Okay.
Second.
Councilor Lisi?
Yeah, I was just wondering if no exterior lighting is actually desirable in the neighborhood, because it could be a theft deterrent type of mechanism. As long as it's not, I would rather not say it's prohibited. If lighting,
well, if there's no exterior lighting there now.
Yeah, but there's no activity, and if there's business
there's
activity.
residences all are in through there. That's my concern. I mean, you've got homes all in there next to 68 Shaman Avenue. There's homes all up and down that area there.
I mean, you can amend the special permit.
I would be concerned about going from lights to, no lights to lights all over in the front of a building, because then you got to get in. If there was site plan review here, I'd be a little less concerned, because then you'd have, well, what's the shielding and what's your radiuses, and he'd have to come in with a whole map, and they'd configure everything out. But this is basically from here out the door, and my concern is, what's the neighborhood impact of having the lights, Signage, the guy has to have his business, and we already have an ordinance that kind of covers that, so I don't feel, and that's attached to the building. It's non-illuminated.
I don't think you're wrong on that, but he can come in and get it.
Yeah, Councilor McGivern?
I think just on the lighting, just to compromise is, the lighting should be, if the owner chose, allowed on the internal side, which faces the White Street. That's where the issues would be. I think there's lighting in other buildings within that complex that probably take care of it, but the possibility that there may be a couple dark spots there. But the Shaman side, if there's no lighting now, why fix why break the horse that's there?
Yeah.
Mr. President, the oil separator was handled well by the applicant, and if he qualifies, which I believe he does, then there should be no issue. The enforcing body for most of this is the building department. Even though it doesn't trip site plan review, they still need an occupancy permit at some time, and any time the building inspector can look both for the conditions on this permit, anything on the license board, and anything in existence by ordinance or statute. The one thing that we did talk about, because this is a new business, which the prior two permits were not new businesses, they were really more transfers from Gary Rome to the Marcotts. This being a new business, there's going to be 2 bays. That trips the number of parking spaces needed for the bays. He has, the necessary, I believe, would be 9. But he has, at the moment, he has more than enough. But there are other businesses that can come in, and sometimes, that can get confusing when multiple uses. It is a commercial property, but when there's multiple uses on the property, parking can become a little bit difficult to sort out. But we came to an agreement on that. And if I believe 9 was the number, yeah. So if we could put that on the permit, I think we'd be in good shape.
Okay, how do you want me to word that, Joe?
9 parking spaces outside the building.
Okay, a minimum of 9 parking spaces. Okay.
You gotta have a minimum of 9.
A minimum of 9 outside. And that's off street.
Correct.
Okay.
Right, sure.
So in terms of exterior lighting,
I have a message from Jeff in planning that says the building code actually determines the lighting allowed, which in this case is that an exterior light may be permitted outside any exterior door.
Which would be okay.
So we just have to say we'll comply with the building code. So exterior lighting shall comply with the building code.
Right.
That way we're giving.
What if you wanted to put lights on the parking lot?
It's not part of the building code. So that would be prohibited already.
Okay, well, we're sure about that.
Planning.
Yeah, he wouldn't steer us wrong.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm impressed he's watching.
Yeah, I am too.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
So, well, if it's a problem, people are going to hear about it, right? We'll be back here.
Yeah.
If I get neighbor complaints. Okay, so lighting, exterior lighting shall comply with Code of Ordinances, and if you'll indulge me, and shall not be a nuisance to neighbors.
Sure.
Right.
Okay. nuisance.
Chicken sausage.
Yes, that's what we do here.
This is what we do.
Not be a nuisance to neighbors. Protect the neighbors, that's what we do here. Okay, so we've got 5 conditions, unless there was another one. Catch me, Mr. Chairman.
No, okay.
I've got auto repair portion shall take place Monday to Saturday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. only. No vehicles to be left outside overnight. Number 3, not more than 2 55-gallon drums of oil may be stored on site. 4, a minimum of 9 outside parking spaces shall be provided off-street. And 5, exterior lighting shall comply with the Code of Ordinances and shall not be a nuisance to neighbors.
Got them all.
Wonderful. All right.
Yeah, good job.
Great. So we got there.
Sorry,
and any other discussion? So an amendment to add those 5 would be appropriate just for our procedures.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to add these 5 conditions. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Councilor Tallman.
No, I just want to state, being on the committee, I think this is great for the business. I believe one of the neighborhood businesses stated that it have somebody in that building because there was nobody in there previously. So anytime you get a building that's getting utilized, that's good for the neighborhood. And Roland came in here and really is working with the city and the neighbors, and I think we should have more of that in the city and be good for us.
A lot of good stuff going on in Upper Dwight Street there, so that's great. What can I say? I'm pro Ward 6. So, any other thoughts, comments, discussion? Councilor Lisi.
Not on this in particular, but before we go on, I just want to say that these 4 different orders that we just went through via DJNR, I think they were all filed within the month of December, and we're mid-January, and they're out the door already. So I just want to commend the business-friendly attitude and work that our DJNR committee has been doing.
Absolutely. Let's second that. Extremely pro-business, laser-like efficiency, DGNR committee.
Here we go. All right.
All right.
That's right.
Excellent. Any other thoughts?
On the motion.
All right. So, colleagues, we're at approval of this gentleman's petition with the conditions added as an amendment. Hearing no other discussion, the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is to adopt and approve the petition at 1584 Dwight Street as amended. A no vote is to deny it.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentin?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
McGee? Yes. McGivern?
Yes.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Unanimous.
By your vote, you have approved your petition. Best of luck to you. All right, good luck. Oh, absolutely, our pleasure. So, brings us now to 14D. 14D is from the Committee on Development and Government Relations, to whom was referred a petition of Williams Auto Sales for a special permit for outdoor sales lots for new and used vehicles, motor vehicles and trucks, marine and recreational vehicles, 7.2.13, to be located at 123 Sargent Street. Have considered the same, recommend that the application be approved. Councilors Bartley, McGivern, Tallman, Sullivan, and Roman.
A motion to receive and adopt the committee report and grant this permit.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to receive and adopt the committee report and to grant the petition of Williams Auto Sales. Under discussion, Councilor
So
Bartley.
Scott Williams appeared. He presented his plan to expand the business by adding 13 parking spaces. What he did prior to this, Mr. President, he purchased a house that was in sore need of repair, and it was. I know from speaking to police department, it wasn't. The house was used, but for a lot of illicit purposes. So Scott Williams bought it, demoed it, and now they're paving over where it was, adding the 13 parking spaces, which complies with the ordinance. We did not add any conditions. No one from the public spoke either in favor or in opposition, and the committee approved it 5-0. Thank you.
Very good. Any other thoughts, comments? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is to approve the petition for Williams Auto Sales. A no vote is to deny it.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Valentin,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Bresnahan,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
McGee, McGivern,
Yes.
Roman,
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes.
Unanimous.
By your vote, you've approved the petition for Williams Auto Sales. Counselor Lisi.
Thank you. I just want to apologize. I misread the name of the text that came in about the exterior lighting, and it was from Kathy Anderson in the chamber as opposed to Jeff, and I just wanted to correct that for the record.
Okay. All right. And Kathy would not lead us
So
astray.
make sure you everybody say hi to Kathy. You wanna do that,
Kathy! Out there in TV land. Watching the highest rated show in Holyoke right now. 14E, the committee report from the Committee on Development and Government Relations, to whom was referred an order that the City Council invite our state delegation to an upcoming meeting of the DG&R Committee. This is pursuant to City Council rules. Recommended that this order be complied with. Councilors Bartley, McGivern, Tallman, Sullivan, and Roman.
Motion to receive and adopt the committee report.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive and adopt the committee report. Under discussion, Councilor Bartley.
So we're going to do our favorite routine here, which is a rapid fire round, Mr. President. So, which is Rule 32A that we adopted a few years ago to have the the state delegation come in. We had them here for again an excellent discussion. It was for a full. I couldn't believe it, but it was for a full hour. The committee had some tremendous questions for them. And so here's generally what we discussed, which was workforce tax credits to encourage welfare to work. Last session, the bill was approved but not funded. It's going to be refiled. It was noted that E. Dennis Walsh, who is as you know, and a business icon and a huge property owner in Holyoke, he died over the holidays. He's age 72. There was discussion that the local aid formula will possibly be revised. I gotta say I wouldn't hold my breath on that. Discussion relative to recreational marijuana. The legislature had a 6-month delay. They have age limits. They're talking about the tax rate. The law says the ABCC has oversight. There's also a local option. We could put on the ballot an option to opt out of the law if we put it on the ballot and the voters approved it. But it was noted that it was passed in Holyoke. Councilor Roman has the numbers on that. I think it was 57%, but I'm not positive. Another noteworthy thing, healthcare somehow makes up 40% of the Commonwealth's budget. I frankly found that shocking, but just so the public knows that the Commonwealth's budget is nearing $40 billion, so you can do the math when 40% is for healthcare. Let's see. Oh, there was this we thought was noteworthy. This body, Mr. President, passed. I don't know what the tally was on it, but it certainly passed a home rule petition at local option to have some flexibility regarding prevailing wage. We asked Rep. Vega, we passed it, what'd you do with it? And his reply was, gentlemen, I never received it. And then it dawned on us, because fortunately we got some veteran counselors on that committee. It dawned on us, and then I had it confirmed today how the law works by the law department, that for home rule petitions, it has to pass independently the city council, Mr. President, as you know, and has to also get a signature that cannot be overridden by the mayor. Well, that's well and good, but we didn't receive any communication from the mayor as to whether he's not going to sign it or what. He apparently did not. We passed it. It was put on his desk. He did not sign it. We now know, 6 months later, at least. And so Rep. Vega really should, we were all set to gang up on him, but he made it clear I never got it. And so now we have to get a communication. I hope we'll get a communication from the mayor's office as to how he wants to proceed on that. Then we spoke about the Chapter 70 formula. Again, they're going to look at it. I wouldn't hold my breath on that either. There's some good questions about the Soldiers' Home, Voc Ed, charter school reimbursement. The canal bridges were discussed. 9C cuts, the east-west rail line, I asked Senator Humison, and he nodded his head, though he didn't say it, to file legislation to refund the Quinn bill, which, by the way, is still state law. So I asked him, so if they're going to, I put on record, he didn't say yes, but he did nod his head. So I've asked Senator Humison to file appropriate legislation to fund the Commonwealth's portion of the Quinn bill. Now, Rep. Vega did make a good point that he's going to introduce legislation to get a creative way to fund that, i.e. through, I think, through state police speeding tickets. I mean, so, that's a thought, Mr. President. It should be discussed. I mentioned two other things. One, I asked for Vega and Humison to show some leadership on what we can do with one of Holyoke's chief assets, which is the Mount Tom ski area, which sits there dormant. So they nodded their heads, and the hope, because we're not getting any leadership on anywhere else, and it's kind of tough, Mr. President, for part-time city councilors, which all of us are, although a lot of people don't get it. But we're part-time, and every one of us is, I think everyone's employed. Well, maybe not how, maybe Howie's retired, but I think every other person here is employed with a full-time job. So to get some leadership is to do something about Mount Tom. It just sits there rotting to death. And we've already received correspondence here, Mr. President, about the buildings being trashed. And we also received correspondence, Mr. President, that independent people out there of their own volition are cleaning up the properties. So whatever's happening with the Boys and Girls Club and any other departments here that have jurisdiction over that, radio silence. And then the last thing we added was we were looking for the big green signs that are in Northampton and in Greenfield to direct people to the Holyoke rail station. For whatever reason, the big green signs are on 91 for Hamp and Greenfield, but they're not on 91 directing motorists to Holyoke. Train depot. And with that, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Very nice. A lot of lightning in that lightning round.
Lightning.
Wow, that was great.
Any thoughts, comments on all of that? Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, I just want to commend our chairman, Councilor Bartley, for doing this. I think it's their second or third year bringing them in, and it's really amazing that we can actually, we see them at different events, but actually have our state rep and our state senator here, and really just to explain what's going on down at the State House for our community, and to ask them questions that sometimes we just firsthand we can get the answer right there. So I really I think it's a great thing, and it's something I'm sure we'll continue and keep at it. Yeah. Good job.
Friendly suggestion for the clerk's office from that would be we get notified of any mayoral vetoes, even if they're not overridable. Like that's anything that's a special act, that's absolute. But for Aaron telling us that, we wouldn't have known. So okay. But, okay, so we plot our course accordingly from that. Very good, thank you, excellent report. All in favor of receiving and adopting the committee report?
Aye.
Thank you. Approved.
Mr. President?
Yes, Councilor McGee.
Can we proceed out of order and take up 24? There's people here.
Second.
Sure.
There are people here. Sorry, that was just really...
Okay.
Yeah. Grammar.
So, right.
Full reading.
Abbreviated. Whatever you want.
It's a committee, isn't it?
There's cupcakes.
Yeah. Okay, motion on the floor is to suspend the rules to take up item number 24 at this time, introduced by Councilor McGee. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Introduced by Councilor McGee, ordered that the city adopt an ordinance to establish the Holyoke Disaster Relief Trust Fund to allow for the receipt and disbursement of donations received on account of the New Year's Day fire. Chapter 24, Holyoke Disaster Relief Trust Fund, Section 24-1, Establishment of a Trust. The City of Holyoke, by this chapter, hereby establishes a Holyoke Disaster Relief Trust Fund and further authorizes the acceptance of gifts, legacies, bequests, and other donations under Mass General Law, Chapter 44, subsection 53A, for the benefit of said fund. The principal of said fund shall be faithfully held and kept good until such time as the principal and income thereupon shall be expended for the benefit of individuals in the community affected by the disasters which occur in the city of Holyoke and for no other purpose. Section 24-2, Board of Commissioners. There shall be a Board of Commissioners consisting of 3 persons who shall have the management of the trust fund for the purposes of investing and distributing funds. It shall be incumbent upon them to develop fair and equitable procedures for the distribution of funds and to see what funds are distributed in compliance with this chapter. The members of said board shall be appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the city council. At the time of the creation of said board, there shall be appointed 1 member for 1 year, 1 member for 2, and 1 member for 3, and thereafter the members shall be appointed annually for 3-year terms. Vacancies on the Board of Commissioners shall be filled by the mayor with approval of the city council. Section 24-3, Compliance with Trust. The city treasurer shall hold all sums of money paid to the city for the benefit of said trust, and the city treasurer shall pay over the income thereof into such person or persons in such amounts as may be ordered by the Board of Commissioners aforesaid. Section 24.4, Granting of Request. Upon receipt of a request for funds, the board shall consider the request and vote whether to grant it. An affirmative vote of 2 of the 3 commissioners shall be required to grant a request. The commission shall maintain a written accounting of the name and residence by street and number of each person to whom any money has been paid in accordance with this chapter, with the amount received or paid to each said person. Signed by the mayor. This is an ordinance, I assume? Certainly looks like an ordinance to me. Chapter 24-1.
Mr. President?
So this would be going to ordinance committee under discussion. Councilor Valentin.
Thank you. And thank you for taking it out of order. There's a number of folks in the public, in the audience, I'm sorry, that are here specifically for this, including, at least I can see, 1 family from the New Year's fire. And they weren't able to sign up for public comment. So I've checked in individually, but basically the concern is that regardless of kind of how this is going to look, the concern is the time frame. These are folks that obviously need these funds now, sooner than later. There are a number of families that are not at their final location in terms of being settled into a home, an apartment, folks that are still with family, that because they do not have access to these funds, it's delaying their process of being able to get fully back on their feet. So my concern is that, and I guess I was just wondering if there's any way that we can receive and adopt this in any way tonight, so that things can kind of move faster, knowing that there obviously has to be, things to be checked and T's that are crossed and I's that are dotted. I would just hate to see that the folks that need these funds are not able to look at a realistic time frame in terms of this. So I don't know right now if there's. I know that the 3 commissioners need to be appointed by the mayor, confirmed by us. I haven't heard from the mayor's office about, are there people that are being thought of already, so that when everything goes through the different channels here, that can happen immediately? I mean, are we looking at 4 weeks? Are we looking at 4 months? I mean, it's I'm exaggerating, but sure. I'm very concerned, and I know that some of the folks that wanted to speak at public comment, it was particularly about that, and it's up to the body if you would like to hear from these folks now that public comment has ended, because that is why they came in, and the concern is the time frame.
Sure. No, it's a really good question. I would say to just take a couple points. One is certainly this contemplates creation of a commission, so the mayor would have to forward us some names. At a minimum, that would have to be the next meeting, right? Let's just say this even already existed. So the ordinance committee could take this up, the creation of this ordinance, perhaps at its next meeting or certainly the meeting thereafter, and go about the process of reviewing this, having it brought into legal form, and then voted on as an ordinance change. And then from there, certainly the mayor could anticipate that with the committee and bring in nominees. And I don't see why that couldn't happen right after the vote, say that night. Like, say, for example, if this got voted out for our next council meeting or the one right immediately thereafter, then theoretically you could have nominees coming in from the mayor if the council adopts this ordinance as is.
So, I mean, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Just as a point of clarification, the whole initiation of this fund was a GoFundMe account to get the cash, to get it to the people. This seems like the creation of an ongoing collection of monies for any variation of things that may happen for this particular incident or into the future, setting up almost a competing fund with, you know, like Red Cross and stuff like that.
My mayor hasn't called me,
is there,
so I have no idea to know exactly.
But just let me just finish my thought, which is, I think we should do the thing that is the most efficient to allow the money that was raised for this purpose to simply be received and expended.
I think
without doing all this bureaucracy.
But I think the problem that they're having is the mayor went out and created this pot of money through his solicitation, albeit 100% noble. And this is great that he's doing that. And of course, we have contributed to this.
And it's up to $96,000 right now. And the
Perfect,
question
right?
is, how do you distribute that right now?
Exactly right. So now they're presented with the fact that now who is going to administer these funds? How is it going to be handled to give them out? And what happened? They have to be deposited somewhere. You know, how will they be invested? What's the future of this? Maybe somebody says, well, I only need, maybe the committee says I give you $1,200 now to buy some new furniture, but a year from now, who knows what? Something comes up and they give them another $2,000. I think that's what they're contemplating, is the administration of this, of these funds. Plus, they may get more funds in the future.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think also with this, so I see there's the establishment of sort of a revolving account, which looks like what 53A does, and then it's as who's going to administer this. So there's a lot of different moving parts here. Councilor Leahy?
Yeah, thank you. It is kind of confusing because people who are donating money in the GoFundMe account, you know, obviously did not know that all this legislation had to happen for these people to get paid. But looking at this language in front of me, I would like to make a very friendly amendment to it that 2 members of the board shall be appointed by the mayor and 1 appointed by the city council, then all 3 approved by the city council, just so we have you know, some checks and balances into the system.
Okay. I think we should certainly take that up in ordinance, absolutely. Councilor McGivern.
Mr. President, the as you noted, but the Chapter 44 is the finance statute of the state, and 53A is the grants and gifts, which we do quite frequently. Right. And whether it's someone giving something to Wisteria Hearst or someone giving something to another body that, you know, is technically under the municipalities governing, this is the statute that we use. I think the difference here is the trust fund, as it's being called, is the setting up of a board of commissioners. Perhaps we can separate, you know, for a little bit longer look, the board of commissioners, but allow the fund to be established and temporarily run by the treasurer. Right.
I'm not sure we even have an appropriate. Nothing
I'm
here
stabbing
even
in the
says.
dark.
I'm not even sure that we even have a 53A revolving account
We'd
establishment.
have to get the auditor to do
this
that
requires
language.
very specific language,
Yes.
as you know, and certainly this language would not be sufficient to do that. So we're going to need a little bit more. And I appreciate that the mayor signed this order, but his signature is not needed on an ordinance change. So, you know, having said all of that, it seems to me that we need to send this to ordinance, get it in correct legal form, and to Councilor Valentin's very good point, there's people waiting on these monies, so the council should be acting quickly on it. And then we go through the nuances of who sits on the board and all of this. So hopefully the chair would take it up very quickly.
Yeah, to your earlier comment, I'm happy to put it on the agenda for the 24th, which is a week from tonight.
Yeah. Right. I mean, that maybe the mayor in the next couple of weeks will come up with some nominees. Councilor Valentin.
And then just to clarify for the folks that are here about this, what that would mean is that the first opportunity we would have to take it as a body to vote on it for implementation would be Tuesday, February 7th, which is our next council meeting.
Right.
But that would just be to create the legislation that would allow a board to be created, and that board would then have to discuss how to distribute the funds in some sort of equitable manner. So
I assume there's going to be some sort of some questions I was going to ask. Is there going to be an application? How do you prove that you were, is it only people who were tenants? Is it somebody, well, I was visiting that day and I lost everything? I mean, there's a lot to it. I won't get into.
Yeah, and I think we should just be really clear that while we can move as quickly as possible to enact the legislation, it doesn't necessarily mean that that is when money will be able to be dispersed. Right. I think we need to make that really clear to folks that are listening.
Right.
Yeah, and I just wanted to clarify that the first opportunity we would have to literally make that first vote would be February 7th. I'm not indicating that would be disbursement of funds or anything along the line. It's just, again, it's the concern about a lengthy time frame at this point.
Sure. I don't know. Have we had a mayor's trust fund thing ever set up before, a GoFundMe page? And where's the money now? Is there a bank account established? Because technically no one can gift money to the city without our approval of the receipt of the funds. There's a gift statute on that, but go ahead, Councilor Roman.
Just as someone who's used GoFundMe before, so it sits on the online platform, and you have to transfer it into an account, or they'll send you a physical check for the donation. Yep. So I think that's where the problem lies. You could donate whatever you'd like through the online platform. Okay. I've done a few myself, but afterwards, then you have to either put in an account for a direct deposit, or they will send you a physical check that'll take 10 business days to get to you. So I think within that lies the problem, and I echo the sentiments of my colleagues. I'm just worried about these families who I've heard from who just really need the money now. They really needed it yesterday. So I think that in retrospect or hindsight, maybe in the future, we don't set these things up and really go through a nonprofit or an agency that can facilitate the funds better and more immediately, because there's families who truly need either security or first, and there's a lot of single men or single women who don't qualify for help, and they needed the money yesterday. So to wait a month, almost a month and a half, 2 months is going to be too long. So I would echo that. I think we should take it up today and vote on it tonight. That's just my sentiments. Because I feel that they needed the money yesterday. So that's just my thought.
Well, and just to that point, maybe we're going to send this to ordinance, because I think we absolutely have to. I think there's a conversation, plus it's in our rules. But besides that, maybe in the interim, the conversation held is, are you sure you want to do it this way? Right. Maybe it's, do we give this to the Red, does the mayor give these funds to the Red Cross, and they administer it because they're not held to the state law standards that we have? And before I go to Councilor Valentin, I had a hand up over here, Councilor.
I think in that vein of thought is that we cut a check. I've never done a GoFundMe page. Maybe you call the mayor, and maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. Have them stop the money coming in at this moment. Cut a check to the Red Cross. Get the folks that need the money, because you're getting 15 members of a city council involved in something that is, again, they need the money now. They need first month's rent, as you pointed out. If it's a single guy and he doesn't have children, well, he's not going to qualify for a lot of things that are going to help him get on his feet. They need the cash now. Cut a check off to some agency that does this type of work. Take the city council bureaucracy right out of this problem and get the folks the money that they need.
It's not an issue. I appreciate that, but I would also say I'm not sure, and I would hope the mayor is getting advice from the law department, is it's not an issue of us, but in terms of this is our process. If we're going to make this a municipal fund, i.e. the Whiting Street Fund, right? Something Whiting Street gives all this money, and now we have commissioners. So this is like the new Whiting Street Fund, right? Except it's for this limited grouping of people, not as more general in its purpose. The point is, can the mayor receive funds as mayor of Holyoke? I'm assuming he's doing it. He's sending the checks. I was asked to mail it to his office, right? So mayor of Holyoke takes in money from people, and now can he just be Santa Claus with the money, or can he just write that off to Red Cross or whomever? I don't know. What are the laws? I assume the law department is advising the mayor on how he solicits for funds as mayor of Holyoke and how he distributes those funds, because What if somebody says, well, I gave a check for 25 grand and it never went to a fire victim? I don't know. I'm just saying, you know, not to say that would ever happen, but I'm just saying there's accountability of all these things. And the money can't be received and accounted by the city until all these procedures take place. So Councilor Valentin was
Thank
next.
you. So just to also clarify, and I think I had mentioned this before, this was kind of all modeled behind, or not behind, after the city of Cambridge had that huge fire, and so that they did a mayor's relief fund through a GoFundMe page. I think they raised $400,000. And so my understanding is that this model is following whatever Cambridge did. And I'm assuming that Cambridge has a city council.
Sure.
And so I'm assuming that this language is perhaps based on that. The other piece is that one of the last figures I had heard, it was 60-something thousand. I haven't looked at the link, but 60-something thousand on GoFundMe and an extra 20,000 that had come in directly to the mayor's office in checks, the people who didn't want to use GoFundMe because GoFundMe does keep some fees.
Like us, because we sent the check.
Correct. So that combination is the 96. So now you have two pots of money. One is, you know, a pile of checks. Another one is a GoFundMe, like Councilor Roman said, where they literally cut a check. This GoFundMe page was set up by our treasurer's office. So that's who set it up.
Interesting.
It wasn't the mayor. It says it right on the GoFundMe page. The manager, or you know, whatever, the page admin is literally Amy. She's the assistant treasurer, correct?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And so this has all been done in conjunction with the treasurer's office and following the model of Cambridge. So I just wanted to say for the record, this isn't, you know, somebody didn't just kind of wake up and say, I think I'm just going to set up a GoFundMe page because, you know, it's kind of cool. It was really done based on a situation that Cambridge just went through recently. And again, just looking to ways in which we can really get these funds to the families as soon as possible.
Sure. Councilor Roman?
Yes, Mr. President. So I would like to ask again, if we send this to committee, but in the interim for the families who received it, as someone who raised funds, my high school best friend just so happened to pass away last year in a car accident for my 10-year anniversary. So I raised the funds physically for her through GoFundMe on my name, but I was able to appoint through GoFundMe her family as the beneficiary so they could access the funds. So I would like to see if, Sarah, if we were be allowed to allow a nonprofit agency that through GoFundMe you can then assign and say, even though we've collected and raised the money, the beneficiaries would be, I'm just throwing it out there, Red Cross and LASA, whomever could then receive and withdraw the funds. The city would no longer be able to touch the money or take it out, only that nonprofit. So I just want to see if that's an avenue that we can explore in the interim, because I agree, and I get what you're saying, that this needs to go to committee because we're creating these funds, but in the interim, those families are waiting, so I think that this might be something that we can explore if it's legal. I'm not sure if that's legal, but that's what I did.
Kevin?
Yep. Councilor Leahy.
One of my concerns with that, and I think it's a good idea, is if you just look through a lot of different nonprofits, the administration charges sometimes are substantial. Sometimes they'll take a pot of money and they'll take 25% of it for administrative fees. So I think we should be very careful about giving this money to a nonprofit and not knowing where that money's going.
Well, we'll ask the Law Department to kindly review all of the questions revolving around this and procedures to make sure we're, and maybe even talk to the DOR briefly, local services, to see that, you know, all of this accounting-wise is handled the way it should be. So any other thoughts on that, Sarah?
I can address a couple of these issues right now.
Okay, great.
So the money was raised on behalf of the city of Holyoke. Like you said, it was done by the treasurer's office. That money is being held by the treasurer right now. Even any of the donations that didn't go through GoFundMe are being securely held by the treasurer's office. As the city, we have to have an account to put these in. This is not a donation to the city per se. It's a donation in trust to beneficiaries, which would be the individuals. It's not money, for example, the city wouldn't be able to use that money for any city resources. We would use it to give to other people. Hence the trust fund, which is the language in front of you. And we did have discussions about potentially giving the money to a nonprofit, but like Councilor Leahy mentioned, they take an administrative fee, and also the city wouldn't have any, or anyone locally would have any control as to where that money went. So those were some major concerns from the mayor's office.
Okay, so if you could get me between now and ordinance the law citation that allows us in the municipal finance law that allows us to take, in funds to fundraise on behalf of others and then use a city account and then donate those to other people. I'd be kind of interested in that.
No, absolutely. And we are following the Cambridge model.
Okay, great.
Has Cambridge dispersed its money?
Yep, Cambridge has, they do it, they have a board that
So we'll go through all that, just to make sure we're...
I have a quick question, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Councilor
Mr. Chair, Sarah, I just happened because, again, this community in the spirit, did the mayor's office or did anyone put an RFP or a call out to the nonprofits to say, hey, we need a full accounting of this money. Are you willing to waive your administration fee? Because I probably know 2 or 3 in the city of Holyoke who are nonprofits who'd be willing, or you ask them, hey, can you waive this fee? It's going towards a good cause. Then you have to provide a full accounting where the checks were cut. If these nonprofits go for grants and have to report to the federal government, report back to the citizens of the city of Holyoke or the people donated with where those checks were cut. Did that ever, I mean, granted, you could say that, and then I agree with my colleague, that's a scary thought, but did anyone ask any of our nonprofits locally?
I'm not sure if that was in particularly done, but if a nonprofit is going to take a cut, if they are going to take administrative fee, it would be subject to procurement. So like you said, we'd have to go through an RFP process, which would take a substantial
I get that, but I'm betting you 9 times out of 10, and I know, especially some of the ones of the people in this room who are working with the families, I doubt they would take it because it's that, and they would have to provide a full report of where the money's going to. But if you don't ask, you never know. So, and I get that's a legitimate concern, but I don't care if it's Providence Ministries, if it's whoever. If you ask, I'm sure we can alleviate those issues and concerns if we just get 10 nonprofits saying they're willing to administer these funds and waive any fees, because then you don't have to go through an RFP, you don't need procurement, and it allows the families a quicker, expedient way to get their money. And we're not sitting on money and having to, we should still go through this process because, again, just this week, 2 more fires. What if something tragic happens again in the future? We now have a fund and a way to address this. But I think in the interim, the city should put out a call to nonprofits who are willing to waive their fee and are willing to report back and give us almost a grant-style reporting, which all nonprofits are used to. Who got to administer the money? How much to just get these families set? Exactly. Whoever it is. I don't care who it is.
Questions and thoughts? Okay. Okay. Is there a motion on 24? I believe.
To refer to ordinance.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to send to ordinance. Any other discussion?
I would like to formalize the request to legal to reach out to the nonprofits per Council Roman's request as an official request to legal.
Second.
Yeah.
To inform us in ordinance.
Okay. Thank you. And just to look into all these questions, huh?
Do we need a vote on that?
So we get some input from them?
Yeah, a copy of this to the city auditor, this item 24, and
Need a vote
hopefully
for
Bellamy.
that to go to legal?
Make a motion that, yeah, we can make a motion
What is
to.
a motion?
Okay, motion's been by Councilor Roman, second by Vacan, that we send a copy of this to the law department and the city auditor to review all the issues discussed this evening.
And the treasurer, since they're holding the money.
Thank you, yep, good suggestion. And the treasurer.
And specifically seek through the nonprofits whether there is an avenue without administrative charge to disperse this money to the people needing it.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Is it possible that they would do it without an administrative overhead for administering the grant?
We want to make that an official request to legal.
As opposed to like the Arm and Hammer fund. We remember that one, the good old days, huh?
Ready to go.
Remember that one.
So if you would consider this an amendment.
Oh, boy. Actually, that's not funny because that was a lot
it
of
really isn't funny, but that's an old Holyoke story that many of us know well, but related to the Victory Theater.
I mean,
Councilor LeBron Martinez.
Yeah, can we assure that there's not like a lag time here? Because if it's gonna go out for like people to go out for RFP process and all of that, I mean, trying to just disperse this money.
There wouldn't be an RFP.
It's a question.
No.
So what
it's just a question to the treasurer, auditor, and law department. Yeah. Exactly, asking for them to review with any nonprofits that might be willing to step up and administer this, as opposed to doing it with this ordinance method. Say these monies go to them and they handle it.
And it would still be both processes. It would, right? It would still be. We're still looking at what's being sent to ordinance.
Right, we'll study it from our side, but they may say, well, maybe we'll do it through the Red Cross, and you'll go apply to the board of directors of Red Cross for funds. That could be another method.
I'm saying just be careful what I was referring to earlier.
Well, I'm just saying their question is maybe there's a nonprofit that's out there willing to not that will donate 100% of the money back to the
I'm gonna be
families.
suspicious of Red Cross now.
Okay, so that's the motion on the floor. Continuing under the discussion, one moment, sir, Councilor Bartley.
So I just want to make up, since we brought up the city of Cambridge 3 times, and apparently this was a cut and paste, can we get a little bit more than this, Mr. President? So whoever's cutting and pasting this, can they expand upon the process and procedure from the city of Cambridge and there's history on that? And then I just want to make one other small point, and this is really to the families, and you know, if I had my choice of nonprofits, I know which one I would pick, but it doesn't matter. There's one on Main Street that does a tremendous work and already working with this program, and the director's in the room right now, so, but I don't get a vote. But, you know, at least twice we've had in here, rush it right through, council, because we need it right now. Well, this is this more towards the counselors than to the families, because it's hard to explain this. But we had it with that grant program for the police cars. Well, get them the money, because let's pass it right now on the floor. As soon as he walked up to the mic, let's pass it right now. That was it. That was the mood in the room, Mr. President. Then we found out down the road, oh, by the way, it's illegal to fund buying police cars from that grant fund. We found that out, Mr. President, but this body was going to pass on the floor that night, but we slowed it down. Okay, so we're not doing it to be obsequious. We're just doing it to try to follow the process right. The second one was a wonderful, thank God we had an amendment from Councilor Sullivan, because how many times do we have somebody walk up to the microphone and fill the room? We've got to pay that money for that Essex house, for the abutter next door. Not one person in this room didn't want to pay that money. We all wanted to pay the money, but fortunately I think we had wisdom, some darn good wisdom from Councilor Sullivan, in particular, to find the appropriate avenue. And several of us were saying, well, we're not going to take it out of stabilization. So we're not trying to prevent it, we're just trying to do it right. And I really like Councilor Romans and Councilor Balances and Councilor LeBron Martinez's enthusiasm here, particularly if we don't have to get involved with distributing the cash for these victims.
All the better.
So much the better. Thank you.
Amen. Student City Council Representative, you've got the floor.
So since it's a very scary thought that the funds might, if we turn it over to a nonprofit, might be used in a different fashion, can we put an oversight, just one vote between the city council, and just put an oversighting over that cash and making sure that it gets where it's supposed to be going? Can we do that, or?
We'd have to look into that. I'm not sure. But we'll talk about it in ordinance.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, motion on the floor is to send item 24 to ordinance if there's nothing else. Councilor Lopez.
I thought that the family would like to speak to the council. I'm not sure if they still want to after all this.
Yes? Okay.
Yeah, so
Second.
All right,
suspend
motion
the
to
rules.
suspend the rules.
Second.
Is there one representative that wants to speak or multiple people? Okay, to allow one representative of the families of the fire victims to speak. Kindly, please come up to the microphone, state your name for us. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Allison Sokolowski, and this is my daughter Evelyn. She's 2 days old.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So we were living in the apartment on Northeast Street on the 4th floor when the fire happened, and we still do not have anywhere to live permanently. I was hoping we would be somewhere before my daughter was born, but that didn't happen. So we are so grateful for everything, like all of the help that we've been getting and all the donations that individuals have given and that people in the community have done. It's really helped in terms of making us feel safe. But what we really need right now is a home. We need somewhere to be living.
What's the plan? What are they saying for you? Like, what's next?
I honestly don't know.
Interesting.
I'm really confused about what we're supposed to do and everything. And I think another thing that's really important for people to consider that maybe, it's just from a low-income perspective that maybe people wouldn't think about otherwise, is that the disbursement of this funds as much as it's going to be really helpful when it does happen, one concern that I do have is how it will affect benefits for my family and for other families.
Interesting.
Because if, for example, we were to have $4,000 deposited into an account in my name, that could make it so that I don't get food stamps, and it could make it so it could affect my Section 8 voucher.
Interesting.
And that's a one-time disbursement that could that could long-term affect the benefits that I'm getting. So I think that that's something that really needs to be discussed. And I know that the people, I know that there's a lot of people from Enlace, for example, would probably be able to help with information on that.
Oh, good.
I just think it's really important that, for my situation specifically, we're staying an hour away. So when I went into labor with my daughter, we had to go to a different hospital. We couldn't go with the providers that we had been using for my pregnancy. I had to take her to the pediatrician today, and it was much harder than it would have been if we were staying in Holyoke at this point, but we haven't been given that option. We've had to find somewhere else to stay. And I think that there needs to be a lot of transparency in terms of how this goes. I don't want anyone to I don't want any families to end up everyone's intentions are really good, but I just want to make sure that everyone is protected in this and it doesn't end up backfiring and harming some of the families in terms of the assistance. But also in terms of housing, people need housing now. And I have a 3.5-year-old and a 7.5-year-old as well, and we're staying an hour away from where she usually goes to play groups in Holyoke, where all of her structure and routine that's so important at this point after the trauma that we've experienced. It's a lot harder than if we could be in Holyoke and be in our home city and with our community, that would be really helpful. And so I think that I just hope that whether people are getting cash or no matter what it is, I just hope that the process can be go as quickly as possible, and really that people can be communicating with the families to ask specifically what the families need in all of this. And
great.
Yeah. Okay.
Gee, well, first of all, our heart goes out to you and everybody else. I mean, it's just heart-wrenching, the whole thing, but we're so thankful that everything is going well with you and little baby there. So what's her name?
Her name is Evelyn Grace.
Oh, adorable.
Thank you.
So our prayers are with you, and this money stuff we're going to try and work out as quickly as possible. If it ends up being the city, we'll certainly do our part to do that, but certainly you have our well wishes of the whole community behind you and everybody else. And
I've definitely felt that since the fire.
Oh, that's great.
I felt a lot of support from the city. I know everyone's trying really hard to do everything they can to help people.
Oh, great.
So, okay.
And you raise a great question. We don't want anything to backfire, you're given money and now this disqualifies you from some other thing. We'll have to have the law department or whomever could look into that, maybe Enlace or somebody else could help us with those questions when we get to that point. Great, thank you. Our prayers are with you.
Mr. President.
Yes, Councilor Roman.
I think and I echo, and I thank the families for speaking. That's a great point. And again, as someone who used to work for New England Farm Workers Council as stabilization case manager, that's why I feel these funds would be best in the hands of a nonprofit, maybe New England Farm Workers, VOC. Those nonprofits, for example, the home-based program that I received as a formerly homeless man, I didn't see a dime of the money. The caseworker and the nonprofit cut the checks directly to my landlord. They paid the portion of my rent, Sleepy's to get me the beds, my refrigerator from the used place. So I think that...
You asked the treasurer to keep doing that for your city council.
But imagine thank you, but imagine exactly the undertaking of this commission if we were to create it to have to administer that. I think that this avenue that we're exploring, and I thank my colleague Councilor Vacan for proposing it, if we find a nonprofit to do it administrative free and then they could distribute it, it won't impact benefits. So I just want to let the families know that. As someone who was formerly homeless, these funds, there is an avenue to do that without impacting your benefits if it comes directly from the nonprofit. So I just wanted to alleviate your mind, but again, I think that's an avenue we need to explore more.
Great, thank you.
may I?
Yes, Councilor Lopez.
I don't want to put Betty on the spot, but I mean, can you go back to your board and ask the board to see if you will be willing to do this? If I may.
Motion to suspend the rules and allow.
No, it's already open. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Betty, just use the microphone for the people at home because it's televised.
My name is Betty Medina Lichtenstein, and I'm the executive director of Enlace de Familias. We've been in the city now for 22 years. We are a vendor out of the Office of Community Development, so we understand reporting and accountability. I don't understand the whole administrative rate. If money is coming in and it's going right back out, I don't see the reason why to create an administrative rate. I don't understand where that came from. Yes, I do report to a 7-member board. I would be able to create call for an emergency meeting and ask them if that was possible. Unless I also had Community Legal Aid come in last Friday, and meet with the families. There was a assumption that everyone, because you're a fire victim, you qualify for emergency assistance. That is not the case. There were only 2 families out of the 30 that were left homeless, because it wasn't just one building, it was the house as well, that people are now homeless, that would qualify for the emergency assistance. So we've been trying to assist the families in getting the proper information, getting the attorneys that do this kind of work to be able to guide them, and also leaving the doors open that if they have questions, they could continue to call the legal counsel. I don't understand the administrative rate. I really don't. We've had in the past, we were fiscal agents, and that's what we would be. The money comes in. There's a really clear process on how it's going to be divided. If there was to be $100,000 in the fund, you're talking about $3,000, $3,333 for each person. No one's getting rich on this, and they've lost everything. And as much as the donations seem to be a lot, not all of it was appropriate for the families, and especially when they're homeless, when they're doing couch surfing. Some people are paying out of their own pocket who are working very minimal jobs. They're staying still in a motel because the money has expended. They only had less than a week to be able to stay in a hotel. Families have also separated.
One quick question. What's the fire insurance?
Sir, it doesn't even come into play here, not right now.
They don't have a loss of use provision in the agreement?
Not right now, no. These families, whether they decide to get lawyers or not, that's how come this money is so critical for them to be able, so when they fill out an application, that they have the funds to be able to pay security deposit, first month's rent, last month's rent, and usually there's an application fee. So they need some funds now.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Valentin.
Thank you, and thank you, Betty, for all you do for our community. We love you dearly. Just also to be clear, some of the folks were able to move into other apartments that the owner of that building already had. Some were, so just to kind of let you all know why people are on different planes in terms of what their position is. Some of those apartments ended up not being extremely well equipped, and we talked about that in these chambers here. Councilor Graney had an order about that. Some were able to do, quote unquote, an even swap and go from one apartment to another. I know of at least, I think, 2 families who were able to get an apartment at 37 Clinton Avenue in Ward 4, and that's where they are. And so for some folks, it was an easy kind of move over. For others, obviously not. And I thank Allison for sharing her experience. And so there's some folks that absolutely need a first floor apartment. Well, we don't have a bunch of first floor apartments that are available in the city, immediately. So that becomes an issue. We have other folks that needed, 3 bedrooms. We don't have, so there's this whole supply and demand issue. Which is a whole bigger conversation. And some of that has happened. And Betty was sharing with me that some of the folks who, for example, are single, who are still, staying at, for example, one of the motels, they don't, like we talked about, they don't have that last security so that they can go into some. So there's a number of different scenarios. It's not an all size fits all for everyone at this point, which we knew was not going to be the case. And so anything we can do to facilitate these processes, I'm sure we would all be in support of. And there's a lot of folks that preferred to, and I'm not speaking about Allison, I'm just saying in general, some people decided it would be best that they go live at a family member's house than live at one of the apartments that the building owner was offering them. And so there's just different scenarios. So I just wanted to add that as some additional information for us. And again, to thank Betty and all the folks who continue to work with the families.
Great, thank you. Councilor Sullivan.
Yeah, I think also one avenue we might want to explore is now, since we've adopted the state thresholds on 30B, if Enlace isn't charging any fees, and we may be able to get quick clarification from council on this, we may be able to transfer or appropriate up to $50,000 without going through the RFP process and really streamline this.
We'll have to discuss and review in legal and ordinance. Yeah, I'm not sure the answer to that. Okay, so the motion on the floor is to send this to ordinance with the provision that we're going to have the law department review the different points made, as well as the treasurer and auditor and law department are also going to discuss the possibilities of having a nonprofit participate and manage this. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Council President.
With your permission, I'd like to take some orders, 44, 45, 46, and 47 out of order.
Okay.
We have some folks this may impact. I'd let them know that this is just going to committee, but it's all surrounding basically the same topic.
Okay.
Can you repeat them?
45, 46, and 47.
44, 40.
And 25 too.
Yeah, Mr. President.
25 is along the same lines.
There are a bunch of sister orders filed that are like this.
Yeah, 25.
Okay. 25 as well. 25 and then 45, 46, and 47. Okay, thank you.
So 25, 44, 45, 46, and 47.
44,
Correct.
45, 46, 47. They're all
25.
about changing monitoring.
Motion on the floor is to suspend the rules to take up items 25, 44, 45, 46, and 47 as a package and to take them up at this time. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 25, introduced by Councilor Roman, that ordinances of the city of Holyoke be changed to require all landlords with 3 or more units to install and have in good working condition.
I think there was an amendment, that there was another one filed late with that, Mr. President.
We have the rest of the wording. Yeah. 20, is there a late file relative to
What's
him?
the rest of that?
The rest of it, I think he...
Yeah, he's going to need an
Install
amendment.
alarms and have them in good working
Alarms?
condition. Yeah.
I would ask that a copy go to the law department too, because an alarm company reached out to me on this matter and said that there's state law that's already in line, and it may be very difficult or close to impossible to supersede that state law. I can send you that information, but just make sure the law department gets
we'll take it up in committee, so send that along, please. So, amendment to add the word fire alarms. 45, introduced by Councilor Leahy. The City Council adopt a special act requiring the installation of monitored fire alarm systems in residential buildings with 4 or more units. 46 from Councilor Leahy. Council adopt an ordinance which requires a communication failure. When a communication failure is detected by a third-party monitoring company in any residential building with 4 or more units, the fire department be notified immediately. At the discretion of the fire chief, a fire watch detail may be assigned until this system is working again. The cost of the detail will be paid by the property owner.
Can I add my name to these?
Sure, just one sec. 47, introduced by Councilor Gladys LeBron Martinez, that buildings sold within the city for residential occupancy be inspected for health and other safety codes before permitted to be in operation in addition to the fire alarms ordinance that already exists, that an additional ordinance requiring landlords to install systems to alert fire departments of any fires within the premises. Motion has been made and seconded, if I heard it correctly, to send all of these to ordinance. Councilor Lisi is asked to be added as a co-sponsor to all of these. Councilor McGee, adding Councilor McGee as a co-sponsor. Councilor Tallman as a co-sponsor. Any discussion? Hearing none.
Here's what it is.
All in favor of sending these 4 items to ordinance? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. So all 5 of those are now over in ordinance. Let me get back on regular order.
26 and 27 as a package, send to ordinance.
I don't think we're up to that one yet. We're still at 17.
Oh, whoops.
17,
Sorry.
18, and 19 to finance. Take up as a package.
Second.
So are we going to just, unless there's discussion, suspend the rules to have just a brief reading of the order? We're sending them to committee, no discussion, and we'll just state what the committee going to is. Okay? All in favor of that rule suspension? Aye. Opposed? So moved. Motion on the floor is introduced by 17 and 18 taken as, and 19 taken as a package, introduced by Councilor McGee. 17 is acceptance of the life-saving equipment grant. 18 is a free cash transfer of 20 grand from free cash to other charges and expenses, with the aforementioned unnamed department that we asked that heretofore all department names be listed on the agenda at the multiple request of many counselors for many years. This is for the Holyoke Police Department. We have no mystery departments. 19 is a free cash transfer of $36,650.30 from free cash to sick leave buyback for the fire department. Motion on the floor is to send 17, 18, 19, suspend the rules, take them as a package, sending all of them to the finance committee.
Second.
All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Now brings us to 20. 20 is introduced by Councilor McGee, that the Public Safety Committee invite in the Chief of Police and Fire Chief to discuss the new ambulance service within the city. Public Safety?
Second.
Councilor President, what an amendment.
Just a friendly amendment that we actually get a copy of the contract that was just signed with the ambulance service.
Okay.
Just so we have that before the meeting.
Of course.
Thank you.
Motion on the floor is to send number 20 to the Public Safety Committee. Committee is requesting that in advance of that meeting, that
all counselors,
that the mayor and/or law department provide all counselors with a copy of the new ambulance agreement between the city and Action Ambulance, who I believe is the name of the new company.
It is, yep.
Mr. President, really,
yes, Councilor McGee.
It should be the new contract plus the old contract. Compare
the old AMR
because there's 2 different companies. So look at both contracts.
Okay, and also a copy of the former or currently existing, depending on what day it is, AMR agreement, and that is an amendment for both of those things to happen. Also, continuing under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
If we could include, besides plus the chiefs of police and fire, but we could include a representative from the Holyoke Medical Center. They have a lot at stake here, and they've always been part of discussions in the past, not negotiation.
Okay. A friendly amendment to also add Holyoke Hospital representative be invited to this meeting.
Second.
That is also seconded, so that'll be in the amendment. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. All in favor of sending to Public Safety and to the Mayor and Law Department a copy as amended? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. So we're going to get a copy of current, copy of the new one, and invite Holyoke Hospital as well.
Mr. President, can we take 21 and 41 as a package? They're the same.
Okay, so just one
Ish.
second. So
Second.
20s in finance. I'm sorry, you said you wanted to do
21
what?
and 41.
21 and 41. Motion to suspend the rules to take 21 and 41 as a package.
And take final action.
Yeah, receive and adopt. I was waiting for the
Okay.
Second.
vote on suspension of rules.
Jumping ahead.
Sorry.
Second, yes.
Ha.
Can we add
Common-
all counselors' names to that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Motion to suspend the rules to take items 21 and 41 as a package. 21 and 41 both state what a wonderful person Jackie Glasheen, who is the principal at Kelly School, is, and how she once again has demonstrated tremendous leadership in her actions and that of her staff to open up the school as a temporary shelter for the fire victims. And we would like to give a proclamation to Jackie Glasheen recognizing her leadership in this regard and generosity. That's what 21 and 41 says. Motion is to made
Request to add
second.
everyone to it.
Add everybody. Yeah.
Yep. Adding everyone in the council, unanimous co-sponsors, and to receive and adopt this now. Any discussion? Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, thank you. After being down at the fire, when Jackie went down and opened up Kelly School, I shot over there. And another thing that we should also point out is her husband, Officer Liam Glasheen, he saw what was happening, and just many people were making their way over. So he went home and he called the police department. He is an officer, and I believe that, and I shouldn't say this, but I know that I believe that he donated at the beginning of his time, and he stayed there for 2 days, very long days. And as I said in the proclamation, Jackie was running around, and she was extremely well organized, and she was having many people helping her out. The Red Cross, the police department, the auxiliary police department, they stepped up beyond belief. And I would love to give all those people proclamations, but I think that it's apropos that we give Jackie Glasheen this proclamation for the fact that she just ran this with perfection, and I was very impressed.
Thank you. Anyone else? All in favor of adoption?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 21 and 41 adopted. 22.
22 and 23 receive as a take up as a
Second.
package, receive, adopt.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to take 22 and 23 as a package and adopt. Suspend the rules for that purpose. 22 reads as follows, introduced by Councilor McGee. City Council invite in the men and women of the fire department, present them with a proclamation for their outstanding work and dedication to the citizens of Holyoke. 23 reads from Councilor McGee. The City Council invite in and present a proclamation to Wilson Lopez for his bravery and heroic actions to save people from the fire. Okay. Motion has been made and seconded to suspend the rules for this purpose, receive, adopt both of these proclamations.
Add my name or all counselors' names.
Motion to add all councilors' names as a co-sponsor without objection. So moved. All in favor of adopting 22 and 23?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 24 is handled. 25 is handled. Now brings us to 26. The City of Holyoke establish and create per ordinance a special permit for any marijuana cultivating facilities and manufacturers. This is introduced by Councilor Roman. Ordinance?
Yes, Mr. President.
All in favor of sending 26 to ordinance? Opposed? So moved. 27, introduced by Councilor Roman. Order that the City of Holyoke tax on cultivators of marijuana be imposed as follows: 9.25 per dry weight ounce for marijuana flowers, 2.75 per dry weight ounce on marijuana leaves. All in favor of sending 27 to ordinance?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
28 with
Abbreviated
abbreviated
reading on
yes.
28.
Yes, please.
That a recall process for elected officials be adopted through a charter change and with approval of the honorable voters of Holyoke at the next scheduled municipal election. I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor, Kevin Jourdain. Without objection, thank you. Motion on the floor is to send this to ordinance. All in favor?
Charter rules.
Friendly amendment for ordinance, if we want it done soon.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed?
No.
So moved. 30.
Does the chair of Charter and Rules have a say?
Well, the chair of Charter and Rules was skipped over on item 15 this evening. We do have a meeting that we wanted to schedule, but seeing the members don't want it to go there, we don't have to schedule the meeting.
Well, there's plenty of other things in there that could take up a couple meetings.
There are at least one other charter change in some rules that pertain to different things that we promised at our last meeting we look at the end of January. This is a 5th Tuesday in January, so it's an extra week. And if all members can make the 30th, we'll be glad to meet on the 30th.
I was planning a neighborhood meeting on the 30th, but we'll see.
Well, this is what happens, Mr. President, you know.
Come on.
All right, well, we can discuss.
Kevin.
Yeah. All right, so let's kick that around, Mr. Chairman. So, since we've already voted accordingly, we're now up to 29.
Oh, 30th is a Monday, right?
Yeah.
29 is...
Mr. President, suspend the rules and take up 29 and 30 as a package.
Was that 29 got stuck to 28? Hold on. Here we go. 20. You want 29 and 30 as a package?
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay, motion to suspend the rules to take up 29 and 30 as a package. These are both introduced by Councilor Roman. 29 reads, Disability Commission provide an update on the list of handicap parking signs submitted by the council. 30 reads, City of Holyoke amended zoning laws to establish a permit for seasonal amusements. Okay, so you want 29 to go to the Disabilities Commission, right?
Yes, with a copy to ordinance, though.
Okay. Motion on the floor is to send 29 to Disability Commission with a copy back to ordinance of their results. 30 is to ordinance. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. (31) Introduced by Councilor Sullivan. Director of Economic Planning and Development meet with the Development and Government Relations Committee to discuss a more aggressive approach to advertising and attracting new industry to Holyoke. DGNR?
DGNR, please.
Second.
Motion on the floor is to send to DGNR. Councilor Lisi.
Just wondering if the maker would allow a friendly amendment to include the Chamber of Commerce on that order, because I think that chambers typically take on that external advertising role.
Would you be okay with that?
I'd be fine with that.
Okay. A friendly amendment to add Chamber of Commerce to meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. All in favor of sending 31 as amended to DGNR. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 32, introduced by Councilor Sullivan. Personnel Department supply the council with the percentage and or actual number of employees of the Holyoke Fire Department who reside outside of Holyoke. You want to, I would say, send it to personnel with a copy back to ordinance, because there's a discussion going on the residency rules.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So motion is to receive, adopt, refer to the personnel director with a copy to the ordinance committee. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. (33) Introduced by Councilor Sullivan. Holyoke Fire Department immediately provide all records regarding the use of any time off, tardiness, or absences. This is to include all scheduled or unscheduled illnesses, vacation, or any other time off for December 31st, 2016 and January 1st, 2017. You want to receive, adopt, send it to the fire department with a copy to the Public Safety Committee, because I'm assuming this is related to the fire.
Correct, and I think I'd like to see if we could get that in by this Thursday, so we'd have that available to us for the meeting.
Okay. So copy to the, obviously, to the fire chief. Okay. All in favor of receiving, adopting, and referring to the
Under
fire
discussion.
chief? I'm going to get to him. with a copy to the Public Safety Committee, continuing under discussion. Councilor McGivern.
Just take a copy to the law department to make sure the format used is correct with personnel laws.
Okay. Copy to the law department as well for review. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 34. You might want to send a copy of your order to the chief that it was adopted so we can get working on it. Otherwise, if it circles through the chain, the mayor may not sign it for 10 days. Just FYI. Agenda 34, introduced by Councilor Sullivan. The Board of Water Commissioners and the manager appear before the council to consider contracting with an independent consulting firm to prepare a feasibility best use study on the future use of the Whiting Street Reservoir as both an active water source and as an emergency backup source. The study should focus on various potential scenarios, including but not limited to the expanded recreational use, revenue-producing opportunities, selective development scenarios, and future maintenance and liability issues. Said study should be completed and submitted back to the council within 6 months. Receive, adopt, refer to the Water Department?
Well, I've consulted with the Water Department on putting this together.
Okay.
For various reasons. Talking with Mr. Conti, and also, talking with the auditor, we have as we know, a lot of budgetary problems. We have a vast resource here that is completely underutilized, and I think it's time to, start opening up discussion on various possibilities, not only for the future uses of them, but also for the future costs that we may be facing. There's problems now coming up with the overflow or the maintenance of the overflow is going to require a considerable sum of money, and also with the flood planning and DEP problems with the earthen dam there.
So what are you proposing in terms of who we should send this to? I would assume it looks like from reading this, you're asking them to do a study and report back to us. So isn't that receive, adopt, and send to the Water Department?
Well, I thought we might want to bring them into DG&R to discuss what we want to see in the
okay. So go to DG&R with a copy to the Water Department.
Well,
go ahead,
Mr. Chairman. Yeah. So, so just through the chair to Mike. I guess we got to be a little bit cautious about this stuff because of open meeting laws, Mike. So what I think this is a great order. I'd like to add my name to it, frankly, but I think I'd rather, if possible, try to get a report from the water commissioners and let us have it sent to us in a timely fashion, 6 months, so that we can review it. And then once we have a report, we can talk about having Conti come in, because it's kind of hard to have all the commissioners. You can't do it, Mike. You can't have all the commissioners come in to us because we got an open meeting law issue when that happens. So you can have Conti come in as a representative. So we can send receive, adopt it, refer it to Waterworks, and send a copy to DGR. So we'll stay on top of it. And 6 months down the road, you can contact me and we'll schedule a hearing. Is that okay?
I think I'm a little lost on the problem with the open meeting law. We're advertising. We're going to be putting it out there. It's not going to be a closed meeting.
Well, because the meetings of this committee, and if we have 2 or more commissioners from the Waterworks present, we've got an open meeting law issue.
Not for us, but for them.
For them.
Because they're saying that 2 or more of them are meeting, discussing their actions on a certain item, and they themselves are not at a posted meeting.
Right. So I wouldn't mind striking the commissioners and just having it be the manager.
That'd be great.
How about maybe let me suggest a third way, which is we send this to the Water Department, and then you appear at their next Water Commission meeting and tell them exactly what you want them to do, and you can be our representative. If they give you pushback and don't do it, then we have a conversation. If they do it, then you're good to go. How's that sound?
Well, I mean, I think you can do that. You can make that in addition to what I suggested was receive, refer to Waterworks with a copy to DGR, and then Mike can go there as a public citizen
Because then you can spell out at the water department meeting, I want you to do X, Y, Z, because they have an item on their agenda where they'll say, we received your order from the council, and then you can go and they'll let you speak to at their next meeting, and you tell them what you want done.
Well, I may want to just still go back to just striking the commissioners and.
But Dave won't do this without the board. It's okay. I can tell you that right now. He's going to want the Water Commission to vote to do some study on the reuse of that. That's a sensitive subject. He's not going to go off on his own without board approval. I can tell you that. Not for something like that.
Well, this is why I'm asking them to bring in an independent.
Yeah, but they're going to say,
independent survey be done on it. You know?
But it's going to probably cost $50,000 to do some study on blah, 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 and hire some consultant to come in. You know, he's going to want a board vote on that because he's probably going to say it's not in our budget and yada, yada. And, you know, maybe we need money from the city or, I don't know. Consultants don't work for free, as you know.
True. We discussed some numbers, and we were thinking the number would be more in the neighborhood of $10,000 for this type of consulting work.
All right. I have no idea, but I'm just throwing. It's $12. He's going to want. He's going to want a board approval. That's my point. Councilor Lisi.
I mean, I think it makes sense to have Dave Conti come in and, you know, hear some of the concerns that we have as counselors, and then he could bring them back to his board, and then, I mean, just to serve as a conduit between the two bodies.
The other.
So are we adopting this and sending it to the water department? Or are we referring this to DGNR to have them in? What is your pleasure?
Well, I'd still like to have them into DGR.
Okay.
Even if
motion on the floor is to receive 34 and to send it to the DGNR committee to have the appropriate whomever come in.
With a copy to the water commissioner.
With a copy to the water commission. I'm assuming they have, you know, you can make them aware of this. Okay, that's the item on the floor. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moved. $35, introduced by Councilor Sullivan, that the mayor kindly forward to our state rep the request for the home rule exemption to the state prevailing wage law approved and submitted by the Holyoke City Council. Receive and adopt.
Second.
Yep. Motion's been made and seconded to receive and adopt this order, send it to the mayor, and we'd kindly ask the clerk if for some reason that doesn't happen, please let us know.
The prior request still stands.
There's an active piece of legislation that was adopted, I believe it was unanimously or pretty close to unanimous by the council.
Yeah, this is what we talked about with the.
But he didn't sign it.
With the,
which we know.
Correct. Aaron Vega has not seen it come through from the mayor's office at all.
Right. Okay. All in favor of adopting?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 36, introduced by Councilor Vacan. Holyoke Fire Department surveillance video or other video available and call logs be provided to the Public Safety Committee for review.
And to amend that to add for the Northeast Street fire.
Or the Northeast Street fire. So amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
And receive and refer to Public Safety.
Okay, motion's been made and second to, how about receive, adopt, send to the Fire Department with a copy to the Public Safety Committee? Because they're the ones that actually have to produce this. Okay? All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 37, introduced by Councilor Bartley. City Council receive a current accounting for calendar year 16 and a regular update on a quarterly basis from the mayor's office on funds received, spent from the cable television fund. Further, City Council should be apprised of plans with the future use of these funds. Please provide meeting minutes from the advisory committee.
Receive, adopt, refer to the mayor.
Motion's been made and second. Yep. Receive, adopt, refer to the mayor.
And copy to finance.
Copy to finance.
Put copy back to finance. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Councilor McGivern.
Sorry, just real quick. This part of this group met with HEDIC recently, and they shed some light on. I think this is an excellent order because a lot of us have been asking questions about the governing body of the PEG access money and so forth, and where we're going. Part of what the group is, and this is a group that's larger than the PEG Access Group is looking for, and we've heard this before, we've been made presentations about a year ago, is looking for a media center within the city of Holyoke that would be run by the group and run by the citizens. And they are looking to negotiate with HEDIC on the property, the old Gleason's townhouse here that the Mike Sullivan had HEDIC buy for purposes that are no longer needed. But that was just an update because I didn't want to miss the opportunity with this order, which I commend Councilor Bartley. It's a good order.
Thank you.
I'm assuming since Sarah's the acting city solicitor, she's the second or third of the other 3 members of PEG Access with myself and the mayor. So we haven't had a meeting in, God, I'd say at least a year. So I think we're due for a meeting with all these updates. So usually we leave that to the chair, which is the mayor, to call those. So we'll have to get together and see if we can't get these updates, because Dave Morton's, or I believe, is told to be doing these audits and things as well.
You haven't accepted the memorandum of understanding of the creation of the larger body?
We did. There was some bylaw amendments made for the Holyoke Community Media. That was all discussed, if you recall, at a committee hearing. My understanding is, yeah, that's all approved. So there's that group, but all the money still funnels through us. Right. There's also supposed to be reports to us, and we're also supposed to be retaining certain funds that are not going to Holyoke Community Media. I made those myself as amendments. So, because I didn't want to give them everything. I wanted to make sure, there was a lot of stuff reserved and retained for disclosure to us. So the PEG Access still remained the parent.
The HEDIC purpose is it'd actually be it'd be good for HEDIC, because HEDIC doesn't want to hold on to a building it's not using.
Sure.
Even though it was mostly being used by the city. But the purpose of what you're talking about is oversight and accountability. It needs to be defined.
Yeah, well, there's over, my understanding, last I saw, there was over $1 million in that fund, and I haven't, who knows.
I think we're getting close to the annual incoming.
Yes, I think you're right.
But that's the number that was discussed, and yeah.
Okay.
And Mr. President?
Councilor LaVacan.
We have an order sitting in Finance Committee that's been tabled now for 2 or 3 times, and we're going to bring it up again, if I'm right, through Chairman McGee, where people have just refused to come in and even answer questions to get the fund established. It's been sitting there for, I think, at least 4 months, maybe, or more.
Well,
so, Mr. President,
sounds like we got to rattle the cage. That's my specialty. Councilor Bartley.
So, thank you for the kind words, Joe, and Linda. Thank you for the amendment. And then the most common complaint, well, other than speeding on streets, is that nobody at home can hear us what we're, these words, these pearls of wisdom that we spew out, unless they turn their volume up to 11. Okay, there's one problem. And then at the last meeting, we didn't have a TV feed, no explanation. So I mean, I'm hearing the conspiracy theorists all over the place because we have the fire department in here, but I mean, there's no explanation as to the lack of the TV feed. Furthermore, I've made numerous requests, why this is hard, to have a scroll at the bottom of the thing to identify who the councilors are. I mean,
maybe be a zoom in on the plates.
I mean, maybe, or even to say a little, when we go into executive session, city council in executive session, we'll be back. I mean, instead of just a blank screen or going on to some sort of a civic event that's that was just an important civic event, but it's just being rebroadcast, so people turn on channel 15 and know what's going on. So, at any rate, that's the purpose of it. Thank you.
We should just have these on auto loop, just like a year in review too, or a best of. A best of highlight reel.
You take up the whole show
for like 16, and that just runs. An encore, best of moments. Exchanges between Councilor Bartley and people at the rail. Councilor McGivern.
If we got the scroll.
That only happened one time.
Just think of the opportunity. If we got the scroll, we could add advertising to our menu.
Absolutely.
When the joint committee was being reported upon by Councilor Roman, could be brought to you by Capri Pizza.
Yeah, absolutely. Mention Councilor Bartley, half off on a pizza,
It only happened one time with me, somebody at the rail, and I think it got deleted, so.
You scared them off. They never came back.
10% Charlie.
10% Charlie, exactly. All right. So motion on the floor is to receive and adopt 37, send it off to the esteemed mayor with a copy back to the finance committee. All in favor? Opposed?
Can we
So
take
moved.
36 and, I'm sorry, 38 and 39 as a package?
Motion to take 38 and 39 as a package. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. 38 is, due to the poor condition of the sidewalk, the city repair or rebuild the sidewalk on the east side of Queen between King and Coit. 39 reads, DPW place a dead-end sign on Merkel Terrace.
Receive, adopt, refer to DPW.
Okay, motion
Second.
been made and seconded to receive, adopt, and refer to the DPW.
Add my
Counselor
name
Sullivan.
Add my name to 39.
Adding Counselor Sullivan as a co-sponsor to 39. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 40, introduced by Councilor Jordan, that the City Council create and adopt a new comprehensive ethics ordinance. I'd like to see that go
See and
to
refer to ordinance.
ordinance. All in favor?
Could you add
Councilor Bartley to that?
Councilor Tallman to that?
Adding Councilor Tallman
Myself, please.
and Councilor McGee and Bartley. All in favor of sending the ordinance?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. 41 we took care of. 42, Councilor Leahy, that the Honorable Holyoke City Council invite the Holyoke Community College President Christina Royal into the DGNR committee, and we'll ask Councilor Valentin if maybe you could help facilitate that for us.
Receive, adopt, and send, have our administrative assistant send a very nice letter to the new president.
So a motion has been made and seconded to refer the order to DGNR with a copy to the admin assistant to make a personal invitation. And I'd ask if Councilor Valentin also could make an invitation, if she feels comfortable, to the new president to have her in at the committee's convenience.
Yeah, please add my name, and I'll work with Ryan on scheduling that, so, thank you.
And you can add me as to
and
the...
adding Councilor Valentin as a co-sponsor.
And just...
And she... sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say... No?
Go ahead, you got the floor.
I was going to say the winter circle is next Wednesday at Gary Rome, 5 to 7, and she's actually the keynote speaker, so
nice.
If you want to have a chance to meet her, she'll be there.
Nice. Councilor Tallman, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say that I had a chance to, I did get a chance to meet the new president at the MLK breakfast up at Schlante the other day, and she's looking forward to coming down here and talking to the council and working together for the future of our city and the college.
Excellent, thank you. So, motion on the floor is to send 42 to DGNR with a letter being sent to the new president. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. Now brings us to item 43, introduced by Councilors Leahy and Roman. This is that Aquarian and United Water clean out the catch basin and fix it on the corner of Meadow and Main. Motion, I would say, is what? Receive, adopt, refer to Aquarian United Water?
Yeah, whatever the name of the company is.
It's United Water at the moment. Yeah.
It's actually Suez. Suez. No.
Oh, there you go. Like I said, for the moment. So Aquarian United Water be deleted and now add Suez. So amended to say Suez. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. All in favor of adopting and referring to Suez?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Well, we're down to 48. We took care of 44 through 47.
Did you include 47 in the package before?
Oh, yes, I did.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Because Councilor LeBron Martinez thought it wasn't part of the package, so she had asked me to send it to ordinance.
We included it in the package, and 47's an ordinance.
Okay, that's what she wanted.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. 48, introduced by Councilor Lopez, that the City Council adopt the following brownout change to the city ordinance regarding the mayor's salary. Decrease salary 75% for the remainder of the year.
Receive and send to the ordinance committee, and hopefully we'll get a copy back to the city council.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded to receive and refer to ordinance. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
So moved.
Show of hands.
Oh.
Okay. Members are questioning whether there was 8 people to send it to ordinance. Raise your hand if you're in favor of sending it to ordinance.
There's no.
1, 2, okay. So that's less than 8. So that motion fails. So item is back before the body.
So if I may,
yes, Councilor Lopez.
I would like to table.
We need a new motion, though.
Okay, I would like to table the order until we get a legal, the legal form from the legal department.
Okay. All right. Well, we can unless we're going to suspend the rules, we can't put things in legal form unless they first go to ordinance under the rules. But so.
Could I make a motion?
Yes, Councilor Tallman.
Make a motion to leave to withdraw.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay. Motion's been made, second to give to leave to withdraw. That'll at least allow us to debate the item because tabling is undebatable. So, Councilor Leahy had his hand up.
Yeah, thank you. Just very quickly, I'm talking about the position of the mayor, not this particular mayor or the future mayor or the previous mayor. But I think this is setting a very dangerous precedent. If you don't like the way a mayor is doing something, we can just file an order and cut the person's pay. I think there's other ways of going around if you don't like the way something's happening. But I think this is a very dangerous way to do it, and I certainly will be supporting the giving to withdrawal.
Okay. Anybody else want to be heard on this? All right. Councilor Lopez.
If I may, Mr. President, I think that when part of the city is being abused the way it is by this administration, somebody has to take a stand and point fingers the way you were referring. So I'm not afraid to be by myself on this order, and I appreciate the city council for listening, and so but somebody has to take a stand.
Okay. Thank you. Councilor Bacon.
I would just note whether I agree with in whole with the content of the order or not. We've had, for lack of a better word, some really crazy orders come before the city council since I've sat on it, and I don't think we've ever failed to allow it to go to committee and have the maker of the order heard in committee. If it happened maybe one other time. Now, I do know that there are many city councils who, as a regular way of doing business, do take orders that they consider to be either over the line or not within the confines of their jurisdiction, and fairly routinely give them leave to withdraw at council. But our history, I just would note, has been to let them go to committee to have their airing. But that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Well, it's certainly a majority decision. That's why we're a democratic body. And is there anybody else like to be weighed in on this? Councilor Sullivan.
Yeah, I just feel that, you know, going after the mayor on this brownout issue, it's strictly tied, you know, it's obviously tied to what's going on with Engine 2. You know, the mayor's got a tough decision. We've got an $8.7 million, I believe, budget for the fire department. And we're coming down to an issue where he has tough budget decisions to make. It's a very tight and difficult thing to run, and to single out this one thing and go after him with a cut like this and compare it with the brownouts in the engine, I think is completely unfair and out of place.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Councilor Valentin?
Just in agreement with Councilor Sullivan, and just to answer the question about the leave to withdraw, I do remember off the top of my head when former Councilor Soto tried to file an order about something about mail and Sundays, and we gave that leave to withdraw immediately.
On Saturdays.
Yeah, that so I remember that.
Deliver packages on Sundays now.
Yeah, there you go. But I do remember that off the top of my head. But anyways, I think
1 in 20 years.
I think you know, this is an order that, as Councilor Sullivan said, he used the word unfair, and I would follow up with, I would agree with the use of that word. Thank you.
Okay.
Kevin.
Councilor Brosnan.
I agree with what everyone's saying. I do respect Councilor Lopez for filing this order. I will tell you, the brownout that Chief LaFond faced, I believe it was in '94, Carlos Vega, God rest his soul, had about 50 constituents from the lower wards demanding that that engine be back online because it would only affect the lower wards where he was and where you reside. So, I mean, I respect the fact that here's a gentleman who is affected by this. I mean, and all the ward counselors in that area, as well as all of us at large, should be upset that, we're allowing a brownout. I mean, again, Carlos Vega, he was at the fire department headquarters with about 50 constituents of that neighborhood and Chief LaFond happened to be off that day, walks into his office, and he's got a protest going on inside headquarters because the neighborhood refused. Because I imagine if it wasn't at the headquarters and it was up at Station 3, people might be doing some things differently. So I respect the fact that you filed that order. I'm not. Again, as Councilor Leahy said, is it this mayor? Is it the next mayor? We can't just cut salaries if people aren't doing what we like that they're doing. But it does send a message, and I understand that.
There is a rare occasion where something like this is in order, and I believe it related to the treasurer's office. I did actually file to reduce somebody's pay from 70 to 20, and I think that finally lit the certain candle under certain derriere to make that person leave, and it seemed to be quite effective. But Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, no, I was just going to kind of piggyback at Councilor Bresnan, and I just got a text, an update from the fire that's happened tonight, that one resident got sent to the hospital, and 2 of our firefighters got sent to the hospital as well.
Not good. Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in on this? All right, we're going to take a vote. All right, so the vote on the floor was made by Councilor Tallman, seconded by Councilor Valentin, which was to give the item leave to withdraw. Okay, all in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
So moved. Item 49, introduced by Councilor Lopez. Just let me read it real quick. City Solicitor and Building Commissioner provide the council an update or future plans regarding the vacant building at the corner of High and Appleton. Provide the council any letters mailed to the owner within 10 days.
That order have been complied. I've received all the documents. Thank you.
Okay, so you want to give this withdrawal?
Thank you. Yep.
Okay, motion's made and seconded to give this leave to withdraw. It's been already taken care of. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So
And it was sent to all of us, so if someone didn't get it, I'm sure Ryan can forward it.
that was emailed?
Huh?
That was emailed.
It was an email from Damien and from Paul Payer.
Okay.
Yeah, with a lot of documentation.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Item number 50, introduced by Councilor Lopez, that the city solicitor or mayor provide a copy of the fire chief contract to the council within 5 days.
Receive and adopt. And send
Okay,
to the
receive and
city.
adopt, send to the law department and mayor to give to the council certainly by our next meeting and or in the interim.
Is that the email we got today from Sarah? Yeah.
Oh, you already
it's been
emailed
complied
us?
with.
Okay, so I haven't received it.
Okay. Item number 5 just complied with?
Yeah.
Number 50 rather. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. President,
Yep.
it complied with the way the order is written, but we've yet to vote on that contract. I've had a conversation with the city solicitor, and I understand our contract votes are subject to appropriations. And we did take a appropriation vote with the last budget pertaining to a certain salary, but we had not had a copy of the contract at that time.
Were we provided a copy of the contract 10 days before it was executed?
No, we were just provided with the budget, through the budget we found out.
That would be in violation of the ordinance.
Correct.
We have an ordinance that specifically say no collective bargaining agreement with any, basically any employee prior to taking effect can be until it's provided to the council.
Which is one issue.
Yeah,
the second issue, and I did talk to Sarah quickly before the meeting, is the position is civil service.
Yep.
The chief of police is no longer civil service. Why do we have to have a contract with the chief of the fire department for salary and
under what authority is there to also add up to what you're saying? Under what authority is there to create a chief contract? Do we have an ordinance that says that? Because we had to create one under a prior legal ruling for the police chief.
That goes back when I believe
it was 1996
for
the police chief.
Yep. And that's what we did, and that was the first time we did a contract for the chief. But what I'm suggesting is that perhaps we put it into committee for further discussion.
Which one?
Okay.
Finance?
Can I make a friendly amendment and send it to finance?
Sure.
Second.
So Motion is to send item 50 to finance for a review of the contract and any potential legal implications of that. Because I would like to see what the mayoral authority is to create a fire chief contract. Because we had to create an ordinance for police chief contract. Because before that, you used to serve strictly at the will of the mayor. You could be fired, get out of here, and you're out of here by, you know, an hour from now. Then we said, and the pay rate was set as 2 times the patrolman. That was all abolished. And the council set an ordinance that said the mayor has the authority to execute an agreement with the police chief for the purposes of compensation and benefits and all that. I'm not sure that, I'm unaware of an ordinance that has that mirror language for fire chief, but maybe we'll see. There's something out there.
Well,
the law department could look into that. Councilor Lopez.
If I may, the reason why I was asking for a copy is that I just find out that the city council took some of the money away during the budget hearing, and that item went back to 120. So
it went back to 120?
Yes.
It was transferred?
Yes.
Which is our other ordinance.
Exactly. So
which says that if we cut, that's why we have an ordinance, by the way, in committee right now, that if you increase a salary back after we cut it, that is illegal. That's the game that's played. They take it out of overtime and go and pay the guy anyways after we cut it. Yep. That one is a particular pet peeve of mine.
we kept that in committee.
That, stay tuned, that ordinance is coming. That's another one of our good government ordinances.
This is just...
Because that's just basically making a mockery of the city council. You vote to cut things and then they just put them back the next day because you voted to give it for overtime. They just transfer it out because it's personnel to personnel.
Or Mr. President, you vote for a bond where it says Jones Point tennis courts.
And they use it to, I don't know, hot air balloon rides.
What do you want?
Yeah, right.
That's why we need to clean it up.
Whatever.
Okay.
Just money.
When people play games, we can make laws to make
just
that more difficult. So, proposal is to send item 50 to finance. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 51, introduced by Councilor Lopez. The fire department, mayor, and commissioners come to the finance department to discuss the fire department budget and staff. Also, any plan or plans to discontinue the ironic brownout in the department.
Receive and send to the finance committee, and hopefully we will get to the
Well, you can't have the commissioners, right?
Show up on Thursday.
Yes, I will.
Would have to be the chief.
Okay.
Kevin?
So motion is to refer to finance, removing the word commissioners.
Right.
Second to the amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All in favor of sending to public safety? We're going to send to public safety, right? Because we're going to be talking about that, the budget, all of that.
Yeah.
And then, okay, we'll leave it at that. Councilor McGivern, did you want to say something?
No, after the vote, just real quick.
All right. Councilor Sullivan?
Yes, with Councilor Lopez's agreement, I'd like to add my name to this also.
Okay, adding Councilor Sullivan as a co-sponsor to 51. Motion on the floor is to send it to public safety as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. All right. We're good there, folks.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
We're all good, right?
Nice try.
Mr. President,
Yeah, late file A.
real quick.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor.
A real quick personal privilege. Earlier tonight, I told you I did not have a copy of the ordinance for the building change. I did not. However, I did have a copy emailed to me, which is fine, green mail. And I apologize to our assistant city clerk and the clerk's department because I didn't read it last week because it went to my junk mail. Because I think it might have came under Irma's new email, which is not Irma's fault, which is my fault for not changing it in my. Yeah, I understand this, Josie, but why does Irma have a new email? Do we have to congratulate her for something?
Irma, join the category of married people. Congratulations, Irma.
Oh, yeah.
Many blissfully happy years ahead of you.
She's just not happy about the 10 o'clock time.
All right. right, thank you for mentioning that, Councilor McGivern, and which now leads us to late file A, which is a communication from the Distinguished Office of Attorney General to Richard Purcell of 99 Martin Street, Holyoke, and it's dated January 6, 2017. In it, they state, "We understand that on October 17th, 2016, you filed a complaint with the Holyoke City Council alleging a violation of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A. The council is required to notify our office of the complaint and any remedial action taken to address the complaint. General Law 30A, Section 23B, 94 CMR 29.05, our office received notification and a response from the council on October 24, 2016. Under the Open Meeting Law, a complaint is ripe for review by our office when the complainant files a copy of the initial complaint with the Division of Open Government, provided that at least 30 days have passed since the complaint was filed with the public body. We sent you a letter on November 10, 2016, stating that if we don't receive the original complaint from you by December 28, 2016, we would presume the action taken by the council was sufficient and would close this file. Our office currently has no record of a complaint filed by you in this matter. Therefore, we now consider the matter closed. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions or believe anything stated in this letter to be inaccurate. Sincerely, Kevin Manganaro, Assistant Attorney General, Division of Open Government." Motion to receive would be in order.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
The abbreviated reading.
Late file B, introduced by Councilor Sullivan. City of Holyoke sent a small delegation to the Cannabis and Commercial Real Estate Summit on February 8th at the Boston Marriott in Newton. This is being hosted by the New England Real Estate Journal. Suggests the mayor, director of economic development, redevelopment, council president, and committee chairs, such as ordinance and DGNR, or their representatives, consider attending. So you want to take just motion to receive it, or?
Well, it would have to be final action because that's February 8th, and we meet on the 7th. So
yeah.
If people want to register and stuff.
So I think you're just giving us the heads up, and then the form is here. Unfortunately, I have a work commitment. I would not be able to attend, but certainly I think it's not a bad idea, including Mike or others that might be able to go, to give us a report. And if they pick up any, yeah, Jim Leahy would be good. Will lunch be provided? Jim wants to know. And then,
but no samples.
And then, so if you guys could make, any paperwork or whatever, because obviously we're kicking this around in committee, this would be very helpful. Under discussion, Councilor Sullivan.
Yeah, and just especially with what we've got facing us the next year on an ordinance side, on development side, employment possibilities and stuff like that. One of the other, the prime speaker there is at this convention, just announced plans in Freeport, Massachusetts, to open a 160,000 square foot facility.
Wow. And
they're a publicly traded company, and I don't think we have to say what a 160,000 square foot facility employing a couple of hundred people, using a lot of electricity and using water and other resources would mean to the economy in Holyoke. And with all the other discussions that are going to go around about it this year, it'd be a good thing to get a background of the other implications that are involved as we discuss this stuff.
Sure. Yeah. So if you and Jim could be good enough to attend and give us a full report, we'd really appreciate it. All right. So motion on the floor is to receive this and commend it to the good graces of Councilors Leahy and Sullivan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Late file C, introduced by Councilor Jordan. Ordered that the Mayor's Chief of Staff and Council Administrative Assistant report back as to the status of the 2014-2015 government photo. If there's an outstanding bill owed for this, then the Mayor's office please submit a financial transfer request if there's insufficient funds in the budget. I'd ask that we kindly suspend the rules to take a final action on this. All in favor? So moved. So, I did. Basically, I don't know, do you have any quick report on I mean, this was all, we all had the picture taken. It's like, well, where is it? You know, that was over a year ago. So I'd like to find out if we can get this taken care of. If you could follow up, find out the whereabouts with Greniers of the photo. Is there a bill outstanding? What's going on? And let us know. And if there needs to be a transfer, I'd like to get that up and rolling. So all in favor of adopting and sending to the mayor and Rory Casey and Ryan Allen? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Late file D, introduced by Councilor Jordan, ordered that a proclamation be issued to Helene Florio and congratulations for being selected the Dwight Award winner. Motion to suspend the rules to take a final action on this.
Second. Kevin.
Yours truly.
Can I be signed on to that, Kevin?
Absolutely.
We had all counselors, I'm sure.
Adding all counselors, past and present.
When's the event? I know. When is it?
February 8th, maybe? Is it 18th? I don't know. I have an email on it today. I'll forward it to you.
All right,
you want to? Maybe you could represent me.
Jim, you're going to the marijuana thing.
Yeah.
Is that the same day?
Yeah, well, that's what he said, February 8th.
Wednesday? I thought it was a Thursday.
Maybe it is. I'll have to look on the calendar. Okay.
I'll go after eating some brownies.
Bring samples to the party. This one I know is a free meal. I was told if I show up with a proclamation, it's good for one free ticket. So that was good. Oh, good. Perfect. All right. So motion on the floor is to suspend the rules to take up final action, adding all counselors as a co-sponsor. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. All in favor of adoption?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Oh, one slipped in here through the grapevine. From Councilor Gladys LeBron Martinez. Per resident request that a four-way stop sign be created in the intersection of Center and Mosier Street.
Ordinance.
Several accidents at this intersection, cars pulling out on Center, speeding cars up on Mosier.
Motion acceptance in the ordinance.
Yep, motion's been received, refer to ordinance, all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, so moved. That's the end of our agenda. Unfortunately,
Motion
you
to
have to go
adjourn.
home now. So, motion to adjourn?
So
Is there a
moved.
second? All in favor? Opposed? Safe travels.